Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Culture War podcast. Today, we've got a couple Gen Z guests. We're going to be talking about Donald Trump's victory and why Gen Z men went for Donald Trump and why Gen Z women didn't. So if you guys want to go ahead and introduce yourself, Luke.
I am Luke Beasley, a liberal political commentator, and just recently started an oppositional show with Isabella Moody, who's here with us as well, called The Grudge, where we bicker and argue about how much we disagree on everything.
Yep. Should I start now?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. I'm co-host of The Grudge with Luke Beasley. Yeah, we pretty much just fight. We have a lot of fun there, but it's kind of cool because not enough people on different sides of the aisle like sit in the same room and actually talk these issues out. So it's a lot of fun, and we definitely get heated on there. So it's fun. You guys will see that today.
We've also got Lisa Elizabeth.
Hi, guys. So happy to be back. Everybody knows I book for this show. I'm really happy to beat up on a leftist today since they never show up. So, Luke, thanks for coming. I really do appreciate you being here, but
I'm pumped.
Let's get into it.
Let me have it.
All right, so we were talking a little bit before we got started. We were talking about some of the repercussions from having Donald Trump win as opposed to having Kamala Harris. There's a lot of people that are on the right that people on the right would consider being persecuted. Some people were put in jail. A lot of people were questioning whether free speech was
The left silenced us.
Under attack by the left.
Yes.
So why don't you go ahead and articulate your position, Luke? What do you think?
About whether or not people were being persecuted?
Yeah. So when we were talking before the show, we were talking about how I was saying how I want to punish the left the way that they punished the right.
The way you think they did, right?
No, the way they did. To where we felt unsafe. Like, I live in Philadelphia, and you couldn't have a Trump sticker on your car because they would smash the windows out. They burnt cars, right? They would attack your house. They would physically harm you or say things to you or be nasty to you. We had elected representatives saying attack these people. That's not just confront these people at the street, at the gas station, in the grocery store, right?
Referring to Maxine Waters,
Correct.
specifically.
And we felt like we were getting kicked off of every social media platform. I was considered a quote hate agent on Facebook and was not allowed to have one. Period. Right? Like a hate agent, all for posting a picture. I didn't post any commentary. I just posted a picture on the thing, and they canceled it forever. It wasn't until I went to work for The Hill again and got my congressional email back was I able to have it. They censored us. They isolated us. It was almost like, how you guys accuse us of being in a cult all the time. It's almost like you guys are in the cult. If you can't be friends with any right-wing people, you can't agree with them at all. You're isolating the opposition. If you're all not on the same page, it's a problem. Where we can at least criticize our people. We can criticize the president. We don't isolate anybody. We're willing to talk to you, and we don't threaten you with violence. And you can bring up January 6th or whatever, but it really felt like
we need to get into that for sure.
Yeah, but it really felt like if you were on the right, you were a pariah in society.
Yeah, okay.
And you see that in your comment section about me.
First off, political violence of any kind, if you're saying that someone attacks your car or something because there's a MAGA sticker, that's insane. They shouldn't do that. It is important to remember that the data show that right-wing political violence is far more
fake data.
Hold on, I want
political violence. Well, I'm just going to finish the point. She went for a while there. And then, you bring up January 6th. That's an instance of political violence. But what you need to understand about something I've explained to Isabella before is that to understand our political analysis of two different relevant, prominent leaders, you have to at least limit it for some logical discussions to the leaders we're talking about, not vibes and abstract perceptions of an entire side. Because on any side, people will do crazy stuff.
Abstract
but in the case
perceptions,
of
look at the BLM riots for months. That's in the case of, it's largely left-wing activists.
Yeah, right.
How come it's that
and
base?
Democrats believed that if you committed crimes, you should be held accountable for them.
That's not true.
Unlike
they were
Trump
bailing them
actually
out.
That's not true.
Yeah, it's not true. Unlike Trump actually wanting to pardon people who were violent on January 6th. But I will say,
they should, all of them.
In the case of Trump, I'm all for protecting free speech. Y'all will sometimes mix up social media censorship, which if you have a platform, you're on the platform and you have terms of service, we can debate about what those terms of service should be, but that's not the same as government infringe.
But the government did infringe,
right? And I'm just going to complete my point really quickly. We can address that.
It's already getting heated, not even 5 minutes in.
No. And then finally, I've never heard Vice President Harris advocate for censorship, whereas Trump literally said the government should come down hard on MSNBC. That's your leader of your movement, not just some random person out on social media.
Which I disagree with that, by the way.
Kamala Harris absolutely said that she was going to look into expropriating Twitter from Elon Musk because he had lost his privilege. These are her words. That's a direct quote. Lost his privilege to own because he was being. I guess the way that she phrased it was he wasn't doing enough to censor people. She literally said lost his privilege. There was that is a direct quote. Lost.
I'm going to pull it up.
Lost his privilege.
I haven't even seen that.
Right.
So that's an actual direct quote from.
If you can find her advocating government.
Well, the FBI had a desk. They had a portal at Twitter where the FBI could tell
Trump,
people.
you mean?
No, not.
As well.
It doesn't matter that it was under Trump. It was.
I'm just saying. You're talking about something.
No. It doesn't matter because
platforms have existed.
It doesn't matter because the FBI
has happened.
It should not.
But it's
the
not
FBI
forcing them.
It does not matter. The FBI is not in a position to tell private companies who they should and shouldn't censor. That's illegal.
So I'm asking you. You're saying that Trump's administration was engaging in illegal behavior.
I'm telling you, the FBI, and it doesn't matter if it was Trump's administration.
No, it does matter.
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
I'll explain to you why it does matter.
I'll explain to you why it does. Go ahead.
There has always been between private and public entities communication, sharing of information in some cases.
This
so
is obfuscating the point.
Let me just explain
You're absolutely obfuscating the point of the.
Listen to what I'm saying, though.
Wait, let him finish, though.
Listen, I'm saying that I agree if the FBI said, we're going to punish you, Twitter or Facebook or something, if you don't censor stuff we want you to censor, that would be a huge problem. Them going also under the Trump administration because Trump was upset that some actress called him a mean word, and they went and requested, hey, we think this violates your terms of service, which anyone with connections at Twitter can do. Hey, does this violate terms of service? Because you might want to take it down. And then what we've seen is the percentages of the actual posts they end up taking down proves that they're not feeling threatened, because a lot of the ones that the government will go, hey, is this against your terms of service? Like, I guess the FBI example, then the social media platforms don't even do it. So they're not even being pressured enough to do all the requests.
So
if there were pressure, then I would agree with you.
But there is pressure. There is fundamental pressure. Now, I used to do. I was
just
telling
the existence of the FBI saying,
asking
hey,
something.
You should do
Can
this.
you look at this?
When the government asks, that is pressure, and to say that it's not is ridiculous.
Yeah,
if the government
you don't hold that principle on a bunch of other things.
Yes, we do. Here, let me explain to you why. I used to work for Congress. I used to do casework. I was explaining this to Isabella the other day, right? And we would advocate for our constituents. And sometimes we would have to advocate for our constituents to say like American Airlines or a company that wasn't a federal agency. And when we did that, we had to make sure we said, can you give this request consideration, full and fair consideration under the law? However, even though we put that stipulation in there, we knew by the government coming to ask them that we were exerting pressure because they're like, oh, a congressman asked for this to happen, right? And what happens is that they know that if you have histories of not complying, that they can come and like investigate your business.
They have endless resources.
And they've been doing that. The DOJ, don't they have an open investigation
I would love
X
to
right now?
flesh out that principle, because it feels like you really limitedly apply it. For example, Trump, because he doesn't like certain coverage, saying CBS should be taken off the air, ABC should be taken off the air, and saying that MSNBC should be targeted by the government. Explicitly his words, you can look up the True Social.
Yeah, he did.
Does anyone here agree? Like, I don't think that's okay. Obviously.
None of y'all are fixated on that, whereas Harris, I still haven't seen the clip.
I just pulled it up, but I'm seeing here that like it's a fact check, not totally accurate. So I want to be good about what it says. And you, Kellen, I put it in the thing, but you can look
again. Yeah. So I'm sure there's some random lefties who are too pro censorship and stuff like that. But I'm looking at people in positions of power because then I know that they're actually relevant to political discourse. Trump's the only one I've heard overtly calling for censorship, which is why he would be the more anti-free speech candidate.
Okay. So here's what I want to say to that, right? When I tell you that like mass people, and they've shown data to support this, were being pulled off of social media outlets, right? Like they were the ones. If you look at the data, there is another graph too that shows now that Elon Musk bought Twitter, it's an even split. It's almost identical.
CNN. That was a CNN.
It was a CNN, right?
Of people using the
platform. And before it was skewed so far to the left. And that is not because of usage. That is because they were deactivating so many accounts.
A lot of it's because of liberals not using the platform anymore. But I've looked into
So what, they went to Blue Sky in the last month?
We've like there's been analyses that have demonstrated that it's because right-wingers violate the term of service. Now, you could say the term of service should be different, and that's totally fine.
Well, okay, so
and I have issues with term of service sometimes whenever videos of mine get taken down or whatever, but that's different than the left or Democrats have
So now
censorship,
I want to push back on that idea. The idea
Do you understand the distinction, though? It seems like
I understand.
I mean, the point that I'm making, though, is when you say violate the terms of service, this speaks to something that actually Tim made a point about when he was on the Joe Rogan podcast, right? So if you say, like, if you make remarks about trans people, if you dead name someone, that is something that you could lose your Twitter account, you could get locked out for dead naming. But that isn't because of that's an ideological position. That's not like if you say, oh, you're violating the terms of service because you're harassing someone because you didn't dead name them. That's an ideological position.
Right, it's not like constant harassment. And the things is that the terms of service were so vague.
Yeah, they're ambiguous. No, they're not
take
specific.
terms of service.
If the terms of service if the people making the judgment about the terms of service are ideologically,
I just agree with you. Of course,
you just said that it was that didn't.
And I do take issue with the terms
what
of
is
service.
racism? What are these different things? What is hate speech? All of that's going to be completely subjective. Obviously,
and by the
that's
way,
just the
they
way
only
that
target people on
private
the
platforms.
right.
The only
left
way
can
that
be
you can make this a
disgusting.
constitutional issue is if you like nationalized social media platforms.
No, because
I don't
because the government trying to use a third party to censor is illegal as well, and that's something the Supreme Court has found. So if the government is pressuring social media companies to block people or to boot them off the platform, that's a violation of their constitutional rights too. So you can't say that the only way.
Totally fine. I agree they shouldn't pressure. You're also not really making a right or left issue because that's something that the Trump administration part took in a lot. And Trump actually says it more overtly. So
okay, well,
it sounds like you're from the Democratic Party.
Go ahead.
Same with a bunch of Democrats. Then awesome.
Because I remember a few years ago, congressional Democrats putting pressure on social media company owners to start censorship. And even just right before the 2024 election, Adam Schiff, what did Trump call him? Shifty Schiff with his long neck, whatever, pencil neck Schiff.
Watermelon head.
He demands social media companies take action in advance of 2024 election to address spread of election misinformation, which they also did with COVID. They were censoring doctors and anyone that had different opinions regarding the efficacy of the COVID vaccine.
And the Hunter Biden laptop. But that's not
misinformation. Right. They censored the New York Post.
Right. So here's the difference, right?
You're circling,
Can you address
not addressing
that?
I'm getting to your point. That's what I want to do.
Okay.
Do you consider like social media the town square at this point in our given digital age society? Like back in the day, think about like in the 1800s, everybody would go to the corner and talk, right? And if you removed somebody from that square and they couldn't talk anymore, right? Then you would be violating their First Amendment right? Like they can't, you're not allowed to say that like here on the street corner. And so that is the difference. Like right now, our street corner where our public discourse is being done on Twitter. So if they're trying to have it both ways, they're trying to say everybody can speak here. And they're putting these arbitrary rules in, which, sometimes you were banned for no reason.
They.
The companies, these private companies, right? But that's the difference. They're either the town square or they're a private company. They're trying to have it both
and
ways.
Legally not the town square. Even though I agree they have a huge impact in our political discourse.
Right, and so
until we fundamentally change our laws again, you could only do it if you nationalize. You're going to have private companies, just like a business that you walk in and you can't wear it without shoes, or you can't go to the store without certain attire on. They're going to be able to regulate their own platforms. Just in our free society, that's going to be the situation. So then advocate for them to have different terms of service. If you're upset with the dead,
we're advocating. Jason Fick is trying to tackle 230 right now, and he actually
advocate away. But y'all then attach this to the political parties in a way that makes no sense when only one of the political parties' candidate actually advocates.
No, they did.
That is not true.
That's not true. But they had
Who is largely being censored? Democrats, Republicans. Come on.
You can make a good point, right? It's fine to make a point, but then you followed up with a blatant lie.
You have
a blatant lie.
No.
Only one party advocates for
What about Adam Schiff? I just showed
It's
you
the most ridiculous, blatant lie that I've
How
heard
is
in this kind of forum that I think ever.
I use the word censorship really, really specifically. So I'm talking about governmental censorship, and that's what you haven't demonstrated. But I have demonstrated that Trump has called for governmental
There's
censorship.
a portal. There has been like an actual congressional investigation into it.
Yes, public and private entities will communicate.
Not only that.
All the time about so
Zuckerberg
many
came
things.
out and said
as long
he's
as
making an apology for it is
do know
not
that-
the same
But
as saying
again,
it doesn't
so
happen.
then you're just as upset at the Republican Party, the Democratic Party.
No,
fine.
don't
At
you-
Trump, you're mad at Trump because Trump's administration did that too. Fine.
No, I'm not.
Great.
I want him to go harder. I want him to censor all of them.
See?
As a
Okay,
matter of fact,
so-
I
I'm,
disagree
you know
with
what?
I
have a-
disagree with Lisa on that.
Lisa.
but-
Everybody
Free
disagrees with
speech.
me on that. No.
Libertarian.
But that's because I'm vindictive. That's because I'm vindictive, right?
Yeah.
Like my thing is that we've played nice. We're like, oh, everybody follow the
it's
rules,
true.
but then the Democrats don't. And there was a whole congressional investigation. Zuckerberg admitted to feeling censored.
Oh, and there were definitely things done wrong in the no, he was talking about in that time people overstepped on social media and the banning and stuff of people totally.
Right, but it was largely geared towards people on the right being censored. Zuckerberg said
Because of medical misinformation,
Right.
which I agree sometimes people
they
were a little trigger happy
clearly
with
got
that.
wrong, right? So the right was being censored. He admits it. So now I'm like, they have been punishing us. The IRS targeted how many people with conservative groups that came out, right? I mean, I was there for that scandal. They have been targeting us forever. You don't remember that? Where the
With
IRS
Obama?
targeted nonprofits?
Under Obama?
Oh yeah, he was 10. I was on the Hill forever. So
It was under Obama, right? Like,
Yeah,
during
yeah.
that
It
time?
It was in 2010,
Right,
11, 12.
Oh, I thought we
however
were
you-
about to go to the 87,000 IRS talking point.
No. This is the IRS when they targeted religion. Anybody
Lois
that
Lerner.
had like patriot or Christian or God or Jesus
Conservative buzzwords,
in their
yeah.
501c3 applications, they were totally pushed off so that they
Yeah.
couldn't
I'm almost certain
financially.
that's not true, but
What are you
Please
talking
hold
about? I'm
you pull that up? What was the
That's
fool's name?
ridiculous. I can't believe you just said that.
the
I'm almost certain
IRS,
that's not true.
the IRS targets conservative scandal. Just Google it; it'll come up. I
Google the name
promise you,
Lois
I swear
Lerner.
on all my kids. Like,
Yeah.
they were kicking people out of being nonprofits.
they were
for
like
having
not
Christian-
approving.
No,
Yep. So
that
they
didn't
Yeah.
There's a
making it
Wikipedia
harder.
on it. Bring that up on this.
Specific-
On the,
Helen's got it.
Specific 501c3s that had these buzzwords, like they were putting the pressure on them, where if other
Right
ones
there,
they
the
didn't.
IRS targeting.
So
No one wants to have the IRS
whole
targeting you,
Wikipedia
okay?
on it.
Yeah,
Almost sure you're
definitely
positive
happened.
it's not true. Give me a break.
I gotta read it. Holy smokes!
Yeah, it was really bad. And so I feel like I'm older than
An
you.
exhaustive report released by the Treasury Department's Inspector General in 2017 found that from 2004 to 2013, the IRS used both conservative and liberal keywords to choose targets.
Dude,
for
it was
scrutiny.
overwhelmingly.
Wait.
There's
With
congressional
all the
Just
heat.
because
Wait,
you-
whoa, whoa,
just
whoa,
because
whoa,
you're
whoa.
going
No,
for
no,
the
no,
first.
keep
Read
reading,
the whole
keep
thing if
reading,
you want to.
keep
If
reading.
you
With
want to
all
talk
the
about
heat-
the whole thing, then read the whole thing.
all the
Don't
heat-
get to one line that
with
says
all
that
the
it wasn't
heat
just
that you
one.
literally
That it
just
wasn't
brought-
just one.
with
It
all
says
the
some
heat-
liberal groups were selected, but it was overwhelmingly
Oh my
conservative.
gosh.
It was.
You just
It
pulled
says-
what you just said.
No, keep going. It was
Yeah, go for it.
it was overwhelmingly conservative, and it was to the point where they admitted that they did it and that it was wrong. I don't know which.
Yeah, clearly not. Okay.
No, keep going.
Here, I have a clip that I can send. I've found a couple
It
congressional
was
clips.
so bad. So anyway, I feel like I have been persecuted, right? Since 2008. I remember when, listen to this. I remember.
That's crazy. You brought the heat and then pulled up that article.
It's Wikipedia, first of all.
It
You're
really
the one
was conservative.
saying
That was awesome
No,
for
I
you.
said to Google it. I didn't say the Wikipedia was the one to bring up.
want me
But
to
the
pull up
point
the
that
clip?
I'm
I don't know how
making,
good it
but to
is,
bring up
but-
Wikipedia and say that Wikipedia,
Is this
which is
the only thing?
notoriously left-leaning,
But there-
which is unquestionably notoriously
Prove
left-leaning,
The point. Okay. This is
No.
just the fact
Y'all's-
that it exists.
y'all's burden of proof on this one.
I'll get it. Hold on, let me pull it up.
Here,
Y'all's
I'll send you a
burden of
link.
proof.
I don't know
Just
if this is
because you
true.
don't
None of these
recall
letters-
it happening
none of these
doesn't mean
letters-
that it
none
didn't
of these
happen.
letters call for the
Things
targeting
that
of
you
groups
didn't
on the
know
basis
of
of political
before-
ideology.
Yes, it
that
did.
happened before your time. It doesn't mean it
IRS
didn't
targets.
happen.
I was there. I was sitting in the congressional hearings. I was like on the
Yeah,
Hill
you were listening to Republicans.
Okay, Lisa, I
do what
sent
they
you a
do,
link.
which is
Well, everybody
portray
does
themselves as
blow
a-
One
it.
minute link.
Oh my God.
What-
I
oh,
was targeting Tea Party hearing. I don't know.
yeah, it was brutal. Anyway, I feel like this. I feel like I've been. It was in 2008. It started. I remember.
Under the
That
peace
was
and unity
crazy.
president Obama, who
Let me
like
say, I
increased
was-
Bring up
race.
the CNN when the
I was
showed that.
bartending, right?
there. Okay, there's the timeline.
Yeah, here we go. You
Yes,
can read that.
because they were using political keywords, as the other thing noted. It sounds like, again, I'm reading up on this here, and
Why use
they
political
shouldn't do that.
keywords?
According to the report, actions taken to change the criteria, right?
But it was because
It was
conservatives
happening
were
not just to
complaining.
conservatives. Boom.
No, it was. It was mainly
mainly
conservative.
We have a clip, a 1 minute clip if we want to watch it.
Here, I'll-
Yeah,
I
bring
don't know
it
if
up.
it's good, but
But it wasn't exclusively that, showing it wouldn't be. Sometimes, like, y'all do this thing where the outcome of something means the intention was something that it wasn't.
Oh, stop
So-
it! You guys do that.
So there might be as a
like
random
a leftist policy, they have these intentions, but
might
it
be-
actually does the opposite.
As a
in
random
outcome.
example, if you put a bunch of political keywords, there might be, I don't know, more nonprofits that associate with the right wing that use
Well, if you
those
use
overt keywords.
terms like patriot, I mean, the left
if you-
doesn't typically consider
Patriots
themselves
are-
patriotic.
Patriots are Nazis.
because they're trying to find you couldn't have certain tax exempt status if you are politically active is why they were going after, right?
No, they were specifically, it was during the Tea Party era, and they were specifically using heavily more
You know,
skewed.
but the
There's
reason,
certain rules.
Right,
Yes,
okay.
there's 501c3s
so then,
and
yeah, maybe more
501c4s.
political buzzwords were used in nonprofits, and that was easier to find. Again, or maybe something was done wrong as well. Sounds like it was.
Did we just
But I don't know how that at all bolsters the point y'all were making.
that the government
Because
targets conservatives?
Yeah, the government
Boom.
targets conservatives
Yes.
more than it targets the left. Another thing that I want to actually go back to, you
Under
mentioned
Trump
that
apparently
you
did.
mentioned the right doesn't do, or the right is where political violence.
No, here it is. NPR. Here you go. I'm going to send this up
Mm-hmm.
because it really is. They actually apologize for it. Kellen, I'm sending this to you right now. Hold on. Pull this up.
Also, I think
It's an NPR article, so you know NPR's to your side.
Yeah.
Pull up just the link that I sent you. There's no excuse for the agency's treatments of these groups, and they specifically apologizes for aggressive scrutiny of conservative groups. It was more heavily skewed towards conservatives.
Right.
It was. And so what?
And y'all misarticulated it being for the purpose of going after conservatives
You
as
just
opposed
concede
to.
that this is wrong.
No, I told you they even noted that it was inappropriate. Totally agree then.
Yeah. So they noted
If
that it
the
was
report
You
was
totally agree
inappropriate?
because you're totally agreeing now because they finally have found. We finally
he didn't
found
have the
something
evidence,
that says
to be
that.
fair.
He didn't know about it yet.
I
so-
was hearing you out this whole time.
You were
He was
doing all
thrown
you
off
could
by,
to say
by
no,
the,
this didn't
by
happen.
the way that was worded, but they did apologize. Like they did apologize.
I don't know what they realized that by using certain political buzzwords to make sure that IRS policies weren't being violated, they were disproportionately harming conservative groups. So then they apologized because of a bunch of uproar.
Okay. I just want to say
I don't see that. So we got justice. Great.
conservatives are just sick and tired of the gaslighting from the left that we're such victims, we're crazy, we're not actually being censored. Yes, we are, and it's been happening for years.
It's not even just censored. It's being persecuted.
Targeted,
Yes.
specifically.
that
Political
there's
persecution.
not a whole
Yeah,
lot.
what are like Trump? I'm sure y'all are thinking of, or what do you mean?
Yeah, like what he was like impeached
No, it was
twice.
before Trump. This has started happening since 2008. I remember
Twice.
I was
it's been
bartending.
going
I was a bartender, right? I had a lot of lives, okay? I was bartending, and he won, right? And this girl that was like a party planner came up, and she was like, in my face, Obama, bleh, right? Like, and I was in a community college.
What'd
like,
she
walking
look
through the
like?
hallways. Stop it, Isabella. So, well, she said, all you salty crackers in here. So, like, that's what she said. So, right, but she was
racist.
in my face, right? But then I was walking through the halls of community college, and they were like, he won, and like would literally come up like they were going to attack you just
gosh,
to
yeah.
scream that Obama won. Like it was like whatever. And since then, I have felt a shift to where it was like we can do where they have a mandate to treat people who don't agree with us aggressively and like you're the scum of the earth. Like I am tired of being called a bigot, a racist. I was the kid that was like, "Mommy, we all bleed the same. Like it doesn't matter," right? I was that girl. I was the person who was like, "I don't care if gay people get married. No, I don't want gay people to adopt kids. I don't want them to be surrogates. I don't want single parents to adopt kids either." But that's not the point. The point is that like we didn't care about all these social issues that much. We didn't have any of that until
Right.
we have been beat down by the left. And I mean, I feel like
Yes.
we've been beat down.
Yes,
Okay,
I was.
so first of all, I'm sorry that people were treating you some type of way back
So
then.
sweet. You don't have to apologize to me.
I would love to show you how MAGA folks treat me. It's happening both ways.
Well, now it is. Yeah, of course. But it wasn't like I'm older than you. I'm like 40, right?
No,
It was not the same then.
again, I'm sure there's all these examples, which I totally acknowledge, of on either side people being totally out of line. But the insane rhetoric about, as an example, the tool that the anti-gay marriage argument was for so long, the demonization of gay people. Now it's this tiny percent of the population, trans people are the biggest issue ever, and we're gonna fear monger about constantly.
It's not the biggest issue ever. Like I don't. If you want to
Yeah,
be trans,
but my point is that for that, you're just expressing your view, right? No, that's not hateful, or the stuff that I get on to Isabella for saying that is super hateful and going after people based on their identity. That is not hate or political attacks to you, but then whenever people respond and are upset with you for having that ideology, now it's I'm the one being victimized.
I don't think we really care about that. But another thing I want to point out is this idea that you can't really be conservative out in the public. When Trump won the first time, I was in college, and they literally shut down all classes. All classes were shut down. There were major just like protests, like riots in this major college campus, University of Massachusetts, Amherst, very liberal. It's like that doesn't happen when a Democrat wins. So what does that signal to conservatives like me on campus? You need to shut up. Don't say that you support Trump.
That doesn't
Stay
happen when
inside.
Democrats win. And this is a really big thing.
He means it doesn't happen when Democrats win.
Way.
I would much rather, even though I don't want to eat, I didn't even hear what you said. You said at college there was riots?
Yes, there was riots, but
So
they shut
don't
down all
riot.
classes because Trump won.
Because of riots.
Kids needed
So
mental
don't
health.
riot.
No, they had
Trump
safe
won.
spaces.
Trying to
won.
riot, you said that doesn't happen when
No,
Democrats
no.
win. To block the
Only a
certification of
college
an election
that
would be a
shuts
little bit more
classes down
destructive than rioting
when
at a college.
Okay, let's talk about that.
You have that one individual.
Oh, you want me to explain
instance.
why?
No,
let me
I don't want you to
explain
explain
something.
why. I want you to talk about another time that there were riots when a Democrat won.
So right-wing political violence, you can look it up, is more prevalent.
This is
not
not
true.
true at all.
Google it.
This is not
Google
true.
it.
All of the riots that happened during 2020, those were not right-wing riots. Those were left-wing violence.
Correct.
The people that were murdered by leftists, that was not right-wing violence.
Right.
That was
So
lewing violence.
this
The
is the difference
CEO
between
that was
anecdotes
just
and data.
the CEO that was just murdered the other
don't
day
yet
in New
know
York
what the
was not
political
because
motivation.
of right-wing
We don't even
violence.
know
Okay,
the
what about the
political
people,
motivation
what
yet,
about Steve Scalise getting shot? My
Right,
boss
right.
was there that day.
Specifically said,
Yeah.
Steve Scalise, they specifically said this
Okay.
is for healthcare.
Rand Paul getting attacked on his neighbor.
I know probably when this gets uploaded, we'll know more about that. I haven't heard yet the political motivation.
I don't care what his political motivation is. There's plenty
Which is
other.
horrible.
It's likely that it was
instances.
it was an anti-capitalist type kind of thing because of the writing on the bullet casings that he had
Okay.
to
some market.
And
deny.
if so,
defend.
that would be
Assumption.
horrible.
Right.
I mean, it was horrible no matter what the motivation was. But the thing that y'all have a hard time getting your head around is the difference between these examples that get focused a lot on
Availability.
media and actual studies that study this to look
Yeah, but the
into
studies are
what's
like
more
this. They're
prevalent.
like the studies are okay. Is this did this person ever say anything hateful about black people? And then all of a sudden he injures the black people. Then it's a hate crime. It's
that's
not the
it.
same.
Authorities
You believe
go
that-
through a process to figure out what the motivation, obviously, what the motive of a murder or an assault was, and if they have evidence that it was politically motivated, then it's classified.
any
That then we
kind of-
categorize and we learn that left-wing violence is far less
Do
prevalent.
you have any
than right-wing
examples?
violence.
Do you have any
I would love
examples of?
to
Can
explain.
you articulate what anyone means by right-wing violence? Like when you hear people, when you hear the argument or the statistics saying, "Oh, it's right-wing violence," can you articulate what they mean by right-wing violence?
motivated.
Not by violence. Can you articulate? Can
An
you
instance of
articulate what the right wing, what the motivation was that falls under right wing?
Yes,
so when
you're
I
not
when I
gonna like
so when I
you're not
say
gonna like being associated with, for example, white supremacist attacks, right? I agree.
well, how frequently are white supremacist attacks
I'm
going on?
assuming that's why you're bringing this up is because
Conservatives
you're going
don't
to
even like them
dispute.
either.
Okay, just listen if you're going to ask a
Sorry,
question.
sorry.
So I'm explaining that I agree. Whenever I start going through and explaining what the different instances of right-wing violence might be, it might be anti-government from a right-wing perspective. It might be racist-driven attacks. You're going to go, well, that's not right-wing. That's just crazy. But the same thing happens on the left. If it's anything that's left of center as an ideology, they categorize as a left-wing attack.
Do you think
Just like
that
how I don't associate with people who looted during Black Lives Matter? You know what I mean?
Okay, well, here's
you
the question
think
though.
But that doesn't dispute at all what I'm saying.
Do you think that the riots that were happening during Black Lives Matter? Do you think those count as left wing violence?
Yeah, the people who, yeah, of course.
Okay, so how many
If you
instances
could
of
find
right-wing
if
violence?
well, let
can
me
you
clarify
name?
before
I bet you
though.
can name one.
People who got violent, who were doing it on behalf of, they
Leftist
felt like they were
causes.
doing it to send a message about how stuff is messed up with policing or something. Those would be categorized as such. A lot of people who were committing crimes, though, just knew there were going to be a lot of protests, and so they sort of took advantage of the moment. That happens every time there's unrest. People will go and loot, and they're not a part of the
left,
political
largely.
ideology at all. But what?
How many?
Largely, but
Would you consider?
let me
them
ask my
do you
question.
think
Okay.
that it's likely the
So-
people that were looting were conservatives?
What?
I said, do you
Yeah,
think
some
it's
people might
likely?
be apolitical, some might be
asking-
Some
conservative.
people were taking advantage of the
the
situation.
ones
I'll give you that.
rioting over George
then
Floyd's
if
death
anyone was
were
rioting-
left-wingers.
Yeah, but
You're not
then-
even trying to hear what I'm saying.
I'm here.
I'm admitting people who committed violence on behalf of a left-wing ideology then should be categorized as left-wing extremists who committed left-wing violence, which they will be, and that's still not as prevalent not even close, to right-wing political.
My turn.
So okay,
My turn.
That's not my opinion. I'm just talking
Wait a
about the
minute.
research on that.
You're talking about research. I want you to name for me 3 instances that you can think of, 3 separate instances of right-wing political violence.
Okay.
3.
The Mark Kelly's wife,
Who's Mark Kelly?
the Arizona senator.
I mean, who that is?
Name. Yeah.
What happened to that?
And
Oh,
then,
that was when that was the shooting.
And then Paul Pelosi.
That wasn't
January 6th. But
Paul Pelosi.
January and then January.
as a few examples.
Wasn't
Wait,
Paul
actually,
Pelosi
let's
guy?
get to that because you think you're being really smug about this. Do you understand why it's bad to try to block the peaceful transfer of power?
Time out.
Okay, no,
Yes.
hold on.
But I've got
I'm
the best
smug about
answer
this
for that.
because not
Can't wait
because
for
of
Because you don't
no,
care about maintaining the core process of
I
our
don't
democracy.
know anything about what I care about, so I don't know where
Clearly,
you get off.
your tone makes it very clear you don't care. That,
my tone comes
that
from the
people
fact that you
believe
had
lies
continue
that
bringing
were
up January
espoused
6th over
I'll
and over
explain
and
it to you.
over and over.
It's not just about that day. Would you like me to explain it to you?
Yes.
Whenever someone loses an election and doesn't have any overwhelming evidence or any evidence at all of outcome determinative voter fraud, and then justifies, and I can't wait for you to pull the thing that I know you're going to pull up,
What
because
am I
every
gonna pull
person thinks they're going to dispute what I'm saying by pulling it up, and I'll say it doesn't at all refute it. But then you go through multiple allegedly illegal schemes that now he's not going to be prosecuted for because he's becoming president, but to block the peaceful transfer of power. Just forget January 6th for a second. The fake elector scheme that she wanted to talk about is an example of him trying to get unlawful people who did sign forms saying we're the lawful electors, and then he was pressuring Mike Pence to accept those as the real electors so that Trump could stay president despite losing the election.
You're going through the details about the January 6th, the things that led up to January 6th, the illegal actions that led up to January 6th, as opposed to the political violence. So you're bringing up the bad.
No,
right. So when you
just
talk,
go, why do you keep bringing up January 6th? I'm explaining it's actually not just about the violence. The more consequential
6th is-
democratically thing
I have a question.
is the illegal schemes or trying to get the Brad Raffensperger. Yes,
Lisa's
this is what I
about
want to talk
to.
about. Yeah.
She's about to intellectually commit right-wing violence.
How many? So you're having a problem with Democrats, not admitting the election. Like Hillary Clinton did say that the election was stolen. She always says
Russia
she is
collusion, Russia,
illegitimate.
illegitimate, right? And then we had actual members of Congress.
Just do you want to explain it, or can I just explain to you
Yeah,
now
explain it.
why that's not at all?
Why is it not the same?
I'm not bringing up, even though I think it was vile because they were doing it because of lies. I'm not bringing up the fact that senators objected or Congress people objected to the results. That actually is a power they have in Congress. I'm talking about fraudulent electors. The fact that that distinction is not one that you'll understand.
So
is
you're semantics. Semantics.
What?
So
No,
you're
no, no.
saying
What?
that
What do you
you're
mean by
saying it's okay for Democrats to object to election results.
First, let me
to
explain the
electors.
Electoral College to you. So you're talking about the certification of the electoral count.
Correct.
we got
and
here
you're
because of
saying
political violence,
that-
not because of procedural stuff.
That's not what you're talking about. Which one would you like me to address?
We got here because of political violence, and you moved it to
Because
procedure.
you multiple times have taken shots about my fixation with January 6th, which I'm fixated, so that's why I want to talk about it. And to your point, you're talking about whenever members of Congress, which is a part of their constitutional authority, it's bad to wield that authority when you don't have a basis to, but they do have the ability to object to the electoral count.
Their
completely
constituents on January 6th were asking their representatives
Lord.
to do that. That's what that was.
Okay, and I haven't brought up once members of Congress objecting.
No, but why do you think the people
Okay,
were there?
so
The
then
people were
before-
wanting
yeah, I
their
gotta-
elected
I
members
need
to
to
do that. They're asking them. That's why they're protesting.
So
Right.
you're completely mixing up two completely different things altogether. That is the electoral count being certified. I'm talking about a president getting people to assert themselves as the electors, the actual electors. Not let's dispute the certification of the election, but let's get illegal electors counted as the electoral college. Please tell me that separation makes sense in your
That
brain.
makes sense, but
Okay,
like,
that's what Trump tried to do.
That's not what he tried to do.
It is so overwhelmingly that he doesn't even deny it.
He's asking people. He said this was a fraudulent election, and
No,
I also,
stop bringing up Congress. I'm saying
I'm not saying that. I'm saying-
individuals who've been prosecuted in certain states for being fraudulent electors. They literally signed forms saying, "I am the dutifully elected elector from the state of Wisconsin."
And
when
he
they
asked
weren't.
people to do that. That's what you're
He
saying.
got them. and
Where's the evidence of
And
that?
then what do you think he wanted
Where's
Mike
the
Pence
evidence
to
of
do?
that?
What do you think he wanted Mike Pence to do?
wanted Mike Pence to
Read
do
two
what those
indictments. That's where the evidence is.
He wants him to assert his power like Congress and not certify the election.
He wanted Mike
He
Pence
has the ability to
say
do that.
he was counting the non-electors that weren't lawfully sent by the states.
Let me say,
Random people.
do you know how many?
It's crazy y'all are okay with that. Imagine that's what Biden started doing.
Wait a minute.
That
Were
would be,
you
you
okay?
understand?
Wait a minute.
Is that crazy?
I'm
to you?
fascinated by the fact that this conversation has turned to January 6th.
Wait, were you okay
I
with?
will talk about this every time until y'all admit
will
trying
drive-
to block
you will-
the peaceful transfer of power is bad.
You
Yes.
will drive
Will
the
you admit that
conversation to
boarding
this.
up the walls
Because
in
this is the
Philadelphia-
one particular thing that we were talking about political violence,
I can
and now
explain
we've
why.
we've trained from political violence on the left versus the right to procedure about January 6th.
Yeah. Procedure. Oh, okay. Let's all take a breath together. First, I
You
want to.
cannot change you're trying to deflect the fact that you went from, we were talking about violence, and you changed
You are the one who brought up
subject.
January 6th when I alluded to that violence.
You're the one that
As an
brought up
example.
January 6th because she asked you for 3 options,
and I gave
one
one
of them was January 6th, and so we started
I
talking
think
about
that's
the
the most-
violence on
one of the
January
most
6th,
notable
and then you
examples of
said, well, no,
political violence
let's
in American
talk about
history.
the illegal actions of President Trump.
Yeah.
All right, wait. Time out.
That's changing the subject from political
Because
violence
I said, do you
to
wanna- I
the
said-
procedure that
we
was
did
that was.
digress. I'm gonna.
You know why though? Because you went. All you can think about January 6th. Sorry, I don't want to do your voice. That's silly. And I went and I was.
He has to do that because we know that the left wing political
I'll
violence is
that's
way more prevalent
exactly
than
why.
right wing.
That's
though
why.
you have
That's
to-
why.
you have
That's
no-
why I
you
stopped
have
talking.
no
and
We
letting
have a
research to
peaceful
indicate
transition
that.
of conversation to move on from
I know
that
you were
fact.
looking up earlier. Can you show them the research on political violence? Because y'all keep really having a difficult.
I want to see how they
So
determine it. Anyway.
the two things that he
wait.
mentioned before. Hold on a second.
But we can
The two
name
things
30. You can
Lisa,
barely name 3.
Hold on.
Anyway.
Wait,
The
I don't
three
care about
thing-
the anecdotes, I care about
three
the
thing- Hold
actual-
on.
Right, the data.
Hold on.
Yeah, the data.
Hey, hold on. The 3 things that he mentioned, right? So there was the Mark Kelly's wife. I forget what her name was. Where she was shot. Right. And then there was
Paul
what was the
Pelosi.
second, Paul Pelosi.
Yep.
Both of those people, they were as much as he's going to say they were politically motivated, it's likely that they were not politically motivated in the same way.
Are you actually kidding
in
me?
the same
Paul Pelosi?
Stop.
The guy literally
Stop,
said, "I need
stop,
to make Nancy
stop,
Pelosi answer
stop,
for the stolen
stop,
election."
Stop,
He literally said that.
Stop.
Where do you think that
Stop,
comes from?
Gay
Stop.
lover.
Paul Pelosi, Paul Pelosi's attacker and the other person, I believe they were in their he was in his underwear or something. So they were both mentally ill people. If they were politically motivated, they were not politically active people that were involved in consistent consistent political activities. They were both wrong. They were both absolutely wrong, and they both did make remarks about politics. But when you say that the right is more responsible for political violence, that's ignoring things like all of the bombings in the 70s by the Weather Underground, right? The multiple times the 2 times in the 80s that Congress itself was bombed, the 2 times that Congress itself was bombed in the 80s, that Bill Clinton went and
Let me know when I can respond.
well, the point that I'm making is you're saying that, it's political violence when you're dealing with individuals, right, that are, obviously they're bad, condemn it, and they did make remarks about politics. But that's not the same thing as these things don't rise to the level of an entire summer of political violence. The murders that have happened by people on the left.
Stores destroyed, cities destroyed because who wants to move to a
Those are
city?
included in the studies I'm talking
But I
about.
also want to point out that violence is just way more accepted on the left. For example, and I put this clip as the second link on the doc I sent you if we want to pull it up. Nick Fuentes is banned off so many things. He doesn't actually literally say you should die and all these. He makes jokes and stuff, but Destiny was dead serious. He's still fine. He's still on every single platform because it's okay. You can call for literal death as long as you're a left winger.
That's true.
Okay.
It's true.
Can I just have a little bit of just a little gap of time to quickly go through a couple?
Yeah, go ahead.
Take
Take
it
your
away,
time.
Luke.
Okay.
Don't let anybody
First of
interrupt
all,
him.
I
Let him
totally
finish.
agree. Disgusting that Destiny said that.
Yes.
Also, I would love to explain at some point my framework of random people online versus people in positions of power and the difference there. That I agree, anyone across the political spectrum advocating for violence would be bad. To your point, I don't know I don't really know where to go other than saying I've researched this over and over, and every time this is analyzed, it just is the case, even with the instances you're talking about, which I oppose, that right-wing political violence is more prevalent. But then on why I focus so much on January 6th and the trying to block the peaceful transfer of power, You did reference you're obsessed with that, which is why I wanted to explain why I'm obsessed with it, because I don't think any policy issue matters if we don't all agree on our democratic process, and that's what Trump disputed. Trump actually thinks he should have had just gotten a second term even though he lost the election. That's super anti-democratic. The illegal schemes that we're having a difficult time apparently understanding are the ones that I'm pointing to justify that. And then is there anything else that I haven't addressed from what you said?
Let me just interject.
And then I would love to talk about the political rhetoric violence.
So let me just say something. So what the data that you're talking about that you researched, can you be honest about what the time frame was? Because the time frame is between 1948 and 2022 that they were looking at it. So we're talking about political violence on the right. That it was Islamic extremists, then it was the right wing, and then it was the left wing, and that's over that broad span of time. That's not talking. They never broke it down into these recent years, right? Since like 2008 and above. Like if you look at the data, that's what they're looking at. It says it here. 2 years ago, team of researchers.
I've seen all sorts of different time
from 4 universities examined court records and other data relating to 3,500 extremist active events in the U.S. between 1948 and 2022. And that's when they said that they were split into 3 groups, left wing, right wing, and related to Islamic extremism. And it said that the most extremist was the right wing, and then the left wing came in a distant third. And so when they're talking about like, oh, we have to be concerned about left wing political violence, they're talking about like over this like broad span.
Or do you mean right wing political violence?
Right wing,
right. Okay.
Sorry, but they're talking about over this broad span of time. But if you look at it, like we can name. The Summer of Love, there was a riot every whatever. Nobody talks about the church, right? And Trump having to go into a bunker. Like that's fine by the left. We can't talk about the.
You're not aware of that?
You don't know about?
No, I remember when he went to the bunker. Yeah,
right. When he went into the bunker and they were bombing like the building across from. Everybody says it was St. John's Church, but it was like actually the building across the street that they did. Right.
Yeah, you're not. Yeah.
What we're not talking about the shooting on.
I am talking about all those things.
Let me keep going. We're not talking about the shooting. Well, in general, I'm talking. The left in general seems to.
It's just y'all's social media echo chamber is not going to contextualize the stories you're talking about.
What context is needed that they're like burning down buildings?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Congressmen are getting assaulted left and right.
I'm just saying I don't really want to go off of like and I oppose all of
more
that.
prevalent. What happened?
Like it's more prevalent. Like you can't
in your social media.
No, not
in the real world.
That's why we have
in America
research
this happened.
institutions so we can figure out if it's just a vibe or if it's real.
Institutions that back up whatever they want to say. They can.
Why do you think they went back to 1948? Right? Why do you think they went?
You're talking about one. Go find any other.
No, this is the one that everybody quotes. AP, right?
You think one institution has
no?
They
used 4 institutions. This is what this is saying. So this is an AP article debunking that the Heritage Foundation leader was wrong to say that most of the violence is committed by the left. And they're all that their AP is citing over and over again are these studies, these 4 studies that they did. That's what the whole left-wing media relies on is these.
It's not true. Okay.
Well then find something that you pull it up. But like that's where the statistics come from. Them analyzing these 3,500 instances of political violence. And so you have Chaz occupation, right? You have, like, we could just name them all off the top of our heads, but, you name me 3 and the one was like barely anything, but like, you can't name 15 like I'm doing. Right, like it is that, and you can't.
Yeah, so this
there were MAGA people every night for months in a row.
Like literally, Google. Don't get obsessed with this because this is just the first thing that popped up. This one is not any of the ones you referenced.
What's it relying on?
National Institute of Justice, and this is since 1990. So this is much more recent, 1990 to 2020, wherever.
2020 what?
Maybe you could link it in the doc roll.
Yeah, I could send it. And it's the same thing. I don't know why it's fine. We can all just be like, hey, it happens. Right-wing violence is more prevalent.
You say it's more prevalent.
It is.
So we're disputing that.
Where?
We're disputing that.
Where?
So no.
The only thing that
my gosh. Welcome to social media. You're not going to be shown it because you don't want that.
No, you can't name it. You can't.
Okay,
name it.
I'll give you more examples.
Please,
since
I want you to
need
name all that you
anecdotes
think
so
of.
badly instead of just accepting data.
Because
But
what happened?
Fine.
So
I can't give you the particular names of the shooters, but more often than not, when there's a politically motivated mass shooting, it's a right-wing one. It's against.
That's not true.
What about the one at that Christian school, the trans activists?
Definitely, mass shootings are way more committed by the left.
I think a lot of people find this really interesting. The way that y'all's brains are working, because it's just going, well, what about this? I don't deny those happened. That's part of what's studied.
Our
brains are working,
overwhelmingly left wing.
You're saying you need examples, so I just gave you a lot of the ones that I know y'all have covered on the show, I'm sure, that were right-wing politically motivated, that were racist, for example, would be calculated on the other
So
end. And then there are left-wing political violence.
Would you say that anything that's a racist killing is automatically
if it were
right-wing?
premised on a right-wing idea like white supremacy, please. This is why I'm saying this is the most.
I mean, I'm asking, and I'm giving you.
I didn't know if you were about to say, oh, well, white supremacy is not right-wing.
I wasn't about to say anything at all.
Cool, great. Well, then, yeah. If it's a right-wing version of racism, whereas if it were someone who was like a Palestinian advocate who then crossed over and was anti-Semitic, and that would be left-wing.
Right.
Okay.
We agree there.
Yeah. Oh, here, let me send. Do you want to send this? Who can I send this to?
You can just put it in the doc.
Oh,
if you're on it, I think we all have the same one, so we can all see that.
Beautiful. So, anything else on that? I know we have more to talk about.
God, we're all, I feel so bad because we're all jumping over each other to get at you. You're totally outnumbered. And I actually, I'm sympathetic for some reason.
No,
usually on the pipple.
We have to give him some credit, he's pretty much doing a 3-on-1 debate. So it's brutal.
Well, why don't we talk about that, right?
Yes.
So the fact that the left has become.
Oh, wait, can we pause before we go to that?
Yeah.
Super important. We have to make the distinction between the leader of a movement versus random people in the movement, because when you divide the country into two sides, there's going to be lunatics on both sides. So Destiny's a good example of the stuff about him not caring if people died at rallies. Insane. But that's not the same as Biden saying that or Harris saying that. But Trump actually participated in the mocking of Paul Pelosi's attack. So there's a difference in Democrats in positions of power aren't going to mock examples of attacks against right-wing politicians, but right-wing politicians have been mocking.
That's a lie.
To that point,
Maxine Waters.
To that point.
There's a whole list.
She mocked.
No,
she's participating by saying you need to go out.
I'd rather.
And I didn't like when she said that, by the way.
Okay, but also, but beyond that, Biden himself standing up and saying that MAGA Republicans are a threat to the very soul of our country, saying that the reason that he ran was because of the threat of white nationalism because of Charlottesville, saying that that Americans are garbage. These are three things.
He immediately walked that back.
It does. I don't care. I didn't ask if he walked it back.
Trump hasn't walked back calling people vermin and saying that they're the enemy from within.
I don't care. You made a remark about Trump, and I acknowledged it, and I didn't try to say that
Biden apologized when he goes too far.
But the point that I'm making is you can't say that, your guy does this and say that Democrats don't, when I just immediately listed off 3.
None of those examples were mocking political violence.
Here, this is
mocking. Donald Trump didn't mock Pelosi. It was his son did. His son did, but Donald Trump didn't.
Pull it up.
Hold on.
Just look up Trump, Paul Pelosi, on Twitter.
I mocked it.
Yeah, that's disgusting.
Yeah, I did.
I did feel bad for him.
I did feel bad for him, but
funny to you?
No. I didn't mock that. I just mocked that was actually not the part that I mocked. I mocked that she's for no borders and she has this insane security system and a wall built around her house and somehow magically this guy got in. That's the part I was mocking.
So the left does similar
I don't want to see anybody
things.
get hurt.
If you want to say that Trump does bad things, I can absolutely agree with that. I'm not a Trump guy. I voted for Trump, but I'm not a MAGA guy. I didn't vote for Trump in 2020. But to say that it's only one side, which is what it strongly feels like you're implying, I would take issue with that. And that's the reason that I push back on it, because it's not that only one side.
Let me clarify then. Definitely not just one side. That's why I'm saying what we could discuss until we're blue in the face, the examples of extreme people on both sides, which is definitely prevalent, because it's difficult to know what's relevant within a really vast social media ecosystem. I like to focus on people in positions of power. So when I compare Biden and Trump, I don't see the equivalency in the way they treat political power.
Okay, so let's
watch this real quick.
But that's all I want to say about that. We can move on.
Kellen, it's this last one. Oh wait, will the link still click? Yeah.
Well, the clip you can
Press
see.
always asks.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's real quick. I think this is the right one.
What are you doing here?
I'm gonna show him something because he said leaders don't do
the Biden clips, but
it's not Biden. It's not Biden. It's
not?
everybody. No.
Oh, is it a montage?
Yeah.
I think I just.
Yeah.
Oh.
Here we go.
Don't I wish I were debating him? No, I wish we were in high school. I could take him behind the gym.
There you go.
That's what I wish.
Okay, keep going.
I said no. I said.
Oh wait, this isn't. I don't want just Biden, but I think there's Maxine's on here now. Hillary's on here. Yeah, they're all.
There aren't uprisings all over the country. Maybe there will be.
That you cannot be civil with a political party that wants to destroy
what you stand for, what you care about.
If you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell
So I
them
think the point. I
haven't heard her say.
Unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
Enemies of the state.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
Insane.
Please get up in the face of some Congress people.
But I think this. Hey, Kellen, I think this. Go ahead and stop it. I think we made.
Right,
I think
like-
the point's been made.
Yeah, but that doesn't dispute what I'm saying at all.
But they're your elected leaders saying
Okay,
to be
It
violent.
was Democrat leaders don't
Guys,
call for violence. It's only Republicans. Point proven wrong.
Yeah, I do want to move on. I do want to move because, like I said,
Talking about
I think
mocking-
I think
instances,
that the point has been made
yeah.
that both sides do it, and it's something that we have to condemn.
Agreed.
But
Yes.
so I think we need. I want to talk about the fact that the left is now seems to be more open to discussing politics in general. And I think it's since the election of Donald Trump. For a long time, it was don't engage, don't give them. If you engage with them, they'll
Don't platform
actually, yeah, don't platform them.
Right.
You're going to give them credibility, and so I want to know your thoughts on that. Do you believe that there is a change, or do you think that this is kind of something that the left has always done, and that we're misrepresenting or misunderstanding the reality?
Definitely there's an issue. I don't want to overgeneralize. There's always been people on the left who will engage, but I totally agree there's been a deficit of that. And one of the things that infuriates me about the feedback we've received to our show, The Grudge, you can find it on Luke Beasley on the channel, that Isabella and I are doing, is a lot of people, if you get upset at something I'm saying or she's saying, understandable, I'm constantly upset at what she's saying.
He cries a lot.
A lot of the feedback is the fact that we're even talking, and it's, why are you
That's from your
platforming
side.
Isabella?
Now our
From my
side will be from our side it'll be like, oh well, he came on at least. Thankfully he came on. They don't discourage us from talking to the left.
Okay, and it's definitely an issue with my side that I'm addressing here, because I engage with them more often, and for a long time, especially with Trump now winning the second time, I don't know how you make the argument if we ignore the ideology, it goes away. Insane. So that's actually really upsetting me. My hope is that more people will do this because, my belief is that we have the facts on our side. So why not bring it out there? And then the idea that you support an ideology by shining light on it. I get that there are certain things you want to be mindful about debating. Like if you're not a doctor, you're not a professional and you're not good at debating, but you just throw yourself into a vaccine debate, but you're not ready for someone who's practiced all the anti-vax talking points, maybe it won't come off right, even if you have the facts on your side. But if you do feel comfortable speaking with people like these, I don't know why people make the don't platform argument. That's strange.
Yeah, my thing is that I actually think that you're like, if you're worried about right-wing extremism, I feel like the left actually made people more extreme by isolating them. So I feel like I have shifted from like a more libertarian mindset to a very far right ideology. And that has been within the last 5-10 years, right? 5 years, more 5 years, right? 5-6 years. I've definitely made a hard right-wing turn. And I really feel like that is because I like that the left radicalized me. And I feel like I would even say that I'm slightly radicalized, and it's because we were demonized, ostracized, don't talk to them, don't platform them, don't whatever, like I was saying earlier on. And if you stop having these conversations with people, you will radicalize the other side. That's why even as much as I want to torment the left right now, which I do, I don't ever want to stop these conversations because I don't think they're productive, and I don't think we're ever going to meet anywhere to make this country at least a little more sane.
Yeah, and even separate from morally or intellectually, just strategically, one of the things that I was reading was that one of the reasons Harris didn't do an interview with Joe Rogan was progressive staffers of hers were afraid of progressive backlash to talking with him. And there's this whole, one of my friends calls it the brosphere podcast arena that we just haven't entered at all, in part because we have a fear of I guess, of engaging with certain people, and then people go, "Why are you talking to them? You're normalizing them," which is like their platform is bigger than most people.
Funny thing is that like they were lefty people, like Rogan.
Yeah,
like Rogan was.
Bernie,
we lost
right.
Rogan.
Yeah,
Well,
you
I mean,
did.
You can look at the Trump administration, and all of the people that everybody was most excited about used to be Democrats. RFK,
Right.
Elon Musk,
Tulsi Gabbard,
Donald Trump. These are all people that in the aughts were Democrats.
Right.
Clearly
Normal Democrats, like
normal
establishment Democrats.
And they've been, run out of the Democrat Party.
By the progressives.
Yeah, by the progressives. That's why I asked earlier, before, I was like, do you consider yourself a Democrat? Do you consider yourself a progressive? Because I think that there is a distinction in the Democrat Party, and there's probably going to be some kind of serious civil war in the Democrat Party. And I think that people that, like yourself, that will go to other outlets and present your views to other people to listen to and actually debate the ideas, I think that you're likely going to win. I think that the progressives that are like, don't go and engage at all, I think that they're going to become fewer and fewer. At least that's my hope. So, kudos to you for
Stuff
that
with the
stuff.
distinction too. I just want to make, in case people don't know my ideology, is like on a lot of economic policy, a lot of policies, I'm really progressive the way we used to use that term. Now it's associated with something, in some cases, that is a little icky. Like, I don't think it's a progressive view to think you shouldn't go engage with other ideologies, but maybe some of the people who
People we would
way
consider that
think that,
a left wing progressive.
that's whack. Because my experience too is I feel like, to your point, I've made people less extreme by just talking with them in my personal life. Now, this will be a little bit more debatey, which sometimes is harder to make progress, but in longer form, more passive discussions, people are open to hearing, unless, like you said, they feel isolated.
I feel like if I walk into a place and I know it's like left wing people, I actually feel like they hate me. Like they hate me.
Yeah.
Even my neighbors hang like a gay pride trans flag outside their house, right? They know I'm super conservative, right? They don't say hi to me. I say, hi, how are you? Nothing, right? Like I feel the hatred coming from them more than so now I hang a straight pride flag up, right? So like, fine, I wasn't going to go there, right? But now that you have treated me,
it's a response,
right? Like I feel like I'm constantly responding to how I've been treated. So like it's a very reactive thing.
It's so interesting because that's how I think most people on the left feel.
Really? See, I feel like I don't even want my husband wearing a MAGA hat in a restaurant because I don't want someone spitting in my food.
Right.
I literally have that fear.
And I know that people were walking around with their Biden and their Kamala hats on, but they think everybody else thinks like them, and like we're the extreme minority here.
And they have the moral high ground, they think. So they're so, you know what I mean?
Like
It's a badge of honor.
They think it's like these random, weird, they're like, we're not the majority. They feel like they have the ability to act like that. Like there were people, I remember so many of us being afraid to wear like a MAGA hat around, right? Or a shirt supporting Trump. But when it was Kamala Harris, I mean, they had masks on that said Biden Harris, right? It was like that was more socially acceptable. You didn't feel like walking into a thing if you had a political shirt on the left that anybody would do anything to your food, that you would get kicked out. I mean, we have felt like that.
I think it depends on where you are. A lot of conservatives like to live in really liberal areas.
I don't like to live there. I'm trying to leave,
yeah,
but
well, that's where you are. But and so then that can happen. But like when I've gone to really conservative areas, I feel uncomfortable if I were wearing something.
But I do think,
which the name is Kamala, by the way.
Oh God,
if you haven't
Swallow.
gotten that
But
correctly.
to his point, I do think that the tides are changing. Like even if you saw after the election, AOC posted an Instagram story and she said, "Hey, like to my voters who voted for me and also Trump, why? I genuinely want to know why you did that."
And that did happen,
which is not the case in the past. Like before, it'd be like, I don't know if she would say you're disgusting people, but why would you do that? But it's interesting in that she's putting that on her platform. Then you even see Cenk, or as I like to call him, Chunky Yogurt, and Anna Kasparian. Now they're kind of warming up to the idea.
And it's been warming up.
And their audience is starting to turn on them. And it's very interesting. And then also Joe Scarborough on Morning Joe, him and his wife was calling Trump Hitler for years. And then Trump wins and then they go have dinner. But if he's really Hitler, wouldn't you not feel safe having dinner with him at his house?
But Hitler. They pointed to historical references about rhetoric because we should learn from history, not to make false equivalents.
The liberals love to use a lot of words that are long.
Y'all's whole thing about, everyone called him Hitler. It's like, guys, chill. He obviously exhibits fascistic tendencies. Can we just acknowledge it? He
doesn't, though.
All right. I don't know what trying to...
He's more Democrat than I'd want him to be. He's
right,
not...
yeah.
He's not... He didn't...
What?
I think that is something that you hear a lot on the right is the right says, please let Trump be the
What they want.
authoritarian that the Democrats think that he is.
What did you say before we started recording?
I can't speak
You
for
want
everyone.
Trump to
People have
be-
gone too far.
yeah.
Like I know people call him Orange Hitler and stuff. Like I've never engaged with that, but I do point to he literally said on True Social that we should terminate the Constitution.
He didn't
Okay, wait,
say that we-
Look it up.
this has been.
Look it up,
we,
please.
we just went over this with Jank. Like it was just we did it
A
on the
massive
show.
fraud of this type of magnitude allows for the
But
termination
that's not.
of all
Nope,
rules,
they broke it
regulations,
down.
and
This
articles.
You guys
even
read it
those
one way.
voted in the
This is
Constitution.
borderline.
We'll set it. We're not going to do this because.
But my point is,
I'll send
okay,
you the
then,
link
okay,
to
then
there
how do
and
you
can get
justify
that.
your? But
So,
there's no,
well, I
but how do you
Maybe we're
justify?
limiting two different
How do you
ways.
justify? Literally, here's the quote: the government should come down hard on them, and the them that he was talking about in the post was MSNBC. That's fascist stuff.
I don't want to.
Right?
I don't want the conversation to continue to be
yeah.
brought to Donald Trump and stuff. We were
God
talking,
forbid we talk about the most relevant person in politics. right
there
now.
are topics that we are going to try to stay to. And when we initially started this was about Gen Z. This particular bit
I'm
was about
explaining why Gen Z.
Okay, but wait. The only reason why I don't
Why
want
Gen-
to
support Trump.
They said-
That's not what we're talking about, though.
Jank-
Why do you think Gen Z has actually
I wanted to
moved
address that,
right?
yeah.
Jank and just so you know, I'm not trying to like avoid that topic. Jank and Tim just went over that like 2 days ago.
2 nights ago. I was
and it
sitting
was
right
like
there.
a 30-minute thing. So I just don't want to, for our audience, I don't want to like break that all down again and go through the
No,
arguments
yeah.
when they already hashed it out. So like I'll send you the clip later. And if anybody wants to watch
I don't
it,
know if
it's Tuesday
Jank was
night.
able to do it justice. I didn't see the clip, but it's ridiculous.
Jank did it justice.
It's ridiculous to try to
What
defend that,
happens
but-
is there's a different reading both ways of it.
Okay, but there's all the examples are him saying the press are criminals and stuff like that. It's just that is fascistic.
So
That's
why?
what
So
worries me.
if this is the
But
case,
I'm
then
trying
why
to
do you
move
think
on. I just have to finish the point. You said you want me to move on. About to go to the thing that you asked about.
I feel bad for him too.
Go ahead.
Which was you were talking about. Oh, I always like my whole life. I have a bunch of Trump supporters in my family and everything. So I'm always listening to the other side and trying to figure out where they're coming from. I am curious as a little bit of a hypocrisy check. One of the things that's weird is like Trump didn't even get a majority. He got a plurality. He got under 50%.
Yeah.
So like the majority voted against Trump in that sense, and he's still legitimate president. All of that, but. In
I love
that,
how the barriers
in
move.
that
It has
situation,
to be like the
no, wait,
win the popular vote. And now it's
I
like
didn't even get to the
majority.
key part
I
of the
just wanted to
point.
make that distinction. Go
He
ahead.
won the popular vote. He won an electoral landslide. He won, okay?
Right.
For sure. But I'm saying I would love to go, all right, someone wins. I'm going to think about not changing my principles if I believe them to be correct because someone won. I can think someone incorrectly won, which I do in this case. But I'm, as we do constantly, trying to figure out what the other side is thinking. Okay. But y'all didn't apply that when Biden won by way more the popular vote, right? Like, why didn't y'all go, what
tell you why,
should we
'cause I was-
resonate with what he's
I'll tell you
doing?
why. Because I was in Philadelphia, right? And I actually am an elected committee person in Philadelphia, right? And my mom's a judge of elections. So I was actually supposed to be doing those elections. And they were literally putting cardboard up on the wall so people could not watch them count the vote, right?
Which is a first
I
in
can
history.
explain why.
People can always watch.
No, but I'm just saying to you.
That's not. You bring up things and then it's
Stop,
like
stop.
I need to explain why you're saying that and why it's wrong. But then
But we had pipes burst, we had the little jump and stuff. And we had shifts to the electoral process that were different, that were done judicially, but it was shifts that were done that were not whatever. We had misinformation running through, favoring the Democrats
Always.
in that, like with the Russia stuff, with the
Hunter Biden,
all that, right? So there were lots of things where Republicans, and you can say they were valid or not, they in their hearts, right, from all this stuff that we see going on, that it wasn't like people now say like it wasn't a fair election because the media, right? And I think that's kind of a cop out. I have seen, as somebody who has been involved in the electoral process for a long time, I have always seen multiple instances of voter fraud happening, right? And I have seen it. I had some guy that came in, he said, like, with this thing, he got dropped off in Philly at like right across from Head House Square. And he said he lived on I forget, it was like 13 Delancey Street. Well, my mom lives at 205. That freaking house didn't exist, right? And he's got this signed little piece of paper and he's saying he wants to vote. You're not this person. There is no house there. You can't say you live there when that house number doesn't even exist, right? And they let him vote, right? And we were mad about it. And then you have instances of like, I don't think that you know this, but in Delaware County, outside of Philadelphia, they actually have on tape saying that there was an investigation. The investigation is still ongoing. They haven't settled it. Where these people were like, we're not going to show them what they did. There's all this undercover footage of them. Actually, the guy is admitting to lying and manipulating the votes in Delaware County. Like, it's still an ongoing like court case today that they're dealing with. It's not been shut out yet. So especially in areas like that where I live, where there's multiple instances of these
and
things.
just this one area and these couple areas. And the problem too is when it takes years to sort these things
but not
out.
even
so it
that.
doesn't change anything.
It takes 7 votes at every precinct. Okay, like in Philadelphia, to change the outcome of an election. 7 votes in each precinct, right? But when we total these numbers up, people are like, "Oh, it's hundreds of thousands of votes," and this and that. Like when you really break the numbers down, it's a small number of votes in each precinct that flips that thing. So. Yeah, there were ways, like, there wasn't standing. There was reasons that these weren't taken up in court. So there people really did feel like the election was stolen and there was nothing we could do about it. It was like out of our hands. Why did I even start rambling on about this in the first place? What were we talking about right before that?
Oh, why y'all won't do introspection, but you think we should?
No, I definitely always think. I am very introspective. I criticize Trump all the time.
No, okay.
Would you
let me explain.
That's not it.
Would you consider the election of Donald Trump an introspection? Considering the fact that like most of the conservatives before Donald Trump had been what you would consider, establishment conservatives, would you consider that the election of Donald Trump might have been an introspection? Maybe the right said, hey, it's not working for us to vote for these people like Mitt Romney or like John McCain.
Oh, I mean, yeah, Trump was more extreme, but that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying y'all never do introspection. I'm saying that I keep hearing this, Luke, you must be wrong. You must admit that we must be right about things because Trump won the popular vote.
I'm not saying that. Nobody's
I wouldn't
saying
say that.
There's like a feeling. I was responding to one of you making some point about that. My point is that if Biden won by way more, which he did, not electorally, but popular vote, it wasn't like y'all went, what should we resonate with liberals about now that they've so overwhelmingly won?
Because it didn't feel legitimate. It felt
right.
rushed
But
and weird.
I'm going to address that because I even sat back to really give you the space to do that. That's because Trump was a crybaby. He stoked a lot of feelings. I'm happy that you would use that word because it was feelings. And then even his own investigators tried to find the outcome determinative voter fraud. And to your point about these different anecdotes, in every election, always in a country this size, you're going to have specific cases of people engaging in fraud. Right. I could do the same thing. I could go find, and I've seen the stories of
we just
MAGA
arrested
folks,
somebody in Pennsylvania for that.
Of MAGA folks engaging in voter fraud. I could pretend like that's representative of a bigger problem than it is. I could not cite the actual studies that prove it's not. I could not cite the actual court cases or the investigations done by.
No, I can cite those things too. I'm saying that there was a bunch of these.
I'm gonna finish this.
Fine, go ahead.
And so the reason those cases were hyperfixated on, even though they weren't representative of a big problem, even Trump's own administration officials were like, we looked into it for him. We're trying to find the fraud. It's just not there. Oh, in any outcome determinative way. And so then
It's not there. It's hard. They can't prove it.
Yeah, keep going. Let him finish his thing.
Okay.
The reason why people also don't feel like it was right that Trump won, but we just don't internalize that by claiming it was all rigged.
About 2016, Russia collusion.
Okay, so let me just explain something. Let me just show you something. Just one thing. All right. So
I've explained that to you.
When there's mail-in ballots, right? We had this mass new mail-in ballot campaign, right? Have you ever done a mail-in ballot?
No matter what you say, I can tell you my response.
Okay,
so if you can already tell your response, it doesn't matter what.
My point is because I've had these conversations hundreds of times already.
So what am I going to say then? It's I'm talking about the sorting process, right? Have you ever done a mail-in ballot?
Have I done? No, I haven't.
Okay, so here's how it works. Because I used to live in D.C., but I was still voting in Pennsylvania because of the.
Well, then Trump's election wasn't legitimate either because there's mail-in votes.
No. Like there wasn't the same amount. Clearly, there's apparently 7 million votes missing now. So
not missing. It's that y'all's rhetoric worked on convincing people the Biden administration was worse than it was when actually talking about it was really successful.
Stop. When you do a mail-in ballot, right? There's an inside ballot, right? That's separate, and there's an outside ballot, right? That has your name and you sign it, right? Because it's supposed to be a secret ballot. So when you mail it in, right, and they go to count the votes, they separate them. They put the counted ones in here, and they put the mail in with the signature here, so you can identify who's who. Okay. Once you do that process, it doesn't matter how you recount them, right? They're forever separate. So you don't know, right? There's no way to, because even now you can't go look up. I can't even go look up if my vote was registered as a right-wing vote or a left-wing vote. So now you have these separate ballots, right? Once you separate them, even if people just take ballots and stick them in the separate pile or the way that they come in or whatever, there's no way, even if you do a recount, that's just the counting process. But there's no way, once the mail-in ballots are separated like that, to determine if they were legitimate ballots. It's not possible once the separation process happens. And there's no identifiable information on that ballot itself. So so when you have this mass ballot campaign, right, and we did extra mail-in ballots, if you look at the difference, right, there's a swarm of them. We do have that very statistical odd jump. You have everybody seen the graph, right? But there's no way to go back and check that. I said from the beginning, people were like, hold out hope. They're doing it. I said, there's no way to prove it. I said, everybody just accept. This is what I said. I did an Instagram post on it. Just accept that Biden is the president. And if you want to do a show of force, go to his inauguration with your MAGA hat on. Like, that's literally what I said. And people said,
there
you're
clearly
not a fighter.
are ways to verify, which is why we catch people doing voter fraud through mail-in votes. But aside from that, I don't know if you believe that. We've just gone through it so many times. And it's more than just recounts, because I know what you're saying about that. But the way that we prosecute people, which we're always prosecuting some people for voter fraud because there's some voter fraud going on.
Yeah, but they're usually things like they watch them drop off multiple ballots at a location.
I wanted to address one of the things you said, though.
Or they get ballots and it's like registered to some random person's account and she has 6.
What? Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, so my point is that we have really secure elections in the country, and I've heard these arguments before with the particular how the mail-in votes are counted. Haven't argued that particular one too many times. But every single time we try to go in and verify our elections or verify the opposite, even when it's right-wing groups that gets access to whatever they want, whatever information about some voting machines were breached by MAGA allies of Trump's, they got access to all of that. The evidence is not there because it didn't happen, because it would be absurd to try to steal an election the way y'all think they tried to steal an election.
I'm going to send you the Delco stuff. You got to watch this for me.
But it's vile that you I always use that word there.
Same thing at the same time.
Great record. It's a great record.
That you would cite all these things or take issue with the entire process that we vote through now back in 2020, and then you learn the election is perfectly legitimate because Trump wins, and now y'all don't care.
Listen, I will say that I feel better. I feel like, there are points where I question.
Y'all should imagine how upsetting it is to be on our side, where we had to listen to y'all scream about fraud for 4 years, and then you learn that that's not the case because Trump wins, and it's just sort of, never mind.
That was after 4 years of you guys saying Russia collusion. But I want to point out that in 2020, we had the COVID happened, and it was used and really abused to change all these different voting systems. Now, all of a sudden, all these new states had mail-in ballots. And as we just learned from Lisa, there can be very easily, things can be.
I still think they're messing with elections.
It was rushed.
In Arizona, in Philly, they're still doing it.
So
now.
It is worth noting that the method of collecting ballots and everything in 2020 was novel. Mm-hmm. We had never had an election under a pandemic the way that we did in 2020. So
just the amount that was mail-in voting.
And also the process. It was there was a lot of changes and stuff.
It was that year because it happened.
Exactly. Yeah, there was the changes in Pennsylvania that caused Texas to try and sue Pennsylvania about their stuff. Yeah. So it was, and the only point that I'm making is that it was a novel election. Mm-hmm. That there had never been an election that was like that one in history.
Yeah, so. and people feel the same about 2024.
Why on earth would you say that they feel the same about 2024?
Oh, just unprecedented nature.
Articulate why it's novel. What was different about 2024 than everything?
None of the rules changed.
Oh, what is it?
That's not true.
What rules changed?
There were Republican state legislatures that changed their voting, but it's fine. It's legitimate. I don't have an issue with it.
And why do you mention
take an issue with the policy? No, I'm saying that you feeling that way and it being an unprecedented election and pandemic doesn't justify trying to block the peaceful transfer of power.
That's not the argument that I was making. So you're bringing it up to deflect to the point. The only thing that I was saying is that it was a novel.
Folks, I hear you. It's novel. I hear you. You know what? I hear you.
Okay.
That doesn't. It's just you're saying it like it justifies what she was just going through. So that's why I was clarifying.
I didn't.
But okay.
I did
great.
not
What
say
was
to
that?
justify
What was that
anything.
Novel
All I
as hell.
The only point that I was making is that
Yes.
it was a unique. It was a different situation than any other election that we've gone through.
Yes.
But I do want to talk about the shift to the right, because you've made remarks about Donald Trump, and it's clear you don't like Donald Trump. I get it. And you've remarked that, he didn't win the popular vote, and he didn't win over 50%. So it's not actually that the majority of America wants it. And so I can take that on its face, but the results nationwide, in California, I think 11 counties flipped. Basically, the entire country moved right. So how do you square that? If the country generally moved to the right, what's your take on that? How do you feel about that? And what do you think that says about the country's reaction to the Democrat policies that we've been living under for the past 4 years?
Great. And the only reason I brought up, just make sure you'll flip in your head too about what it meant about Trump when Trump lost as well. But let me just answer that, because Trump won, and
but again, that's why I pointed the right shift, because it's not. I'm not talking about Trump.
Yeah,
I'm talking about
right
the whole country shifted to the right. So
and that's
talk about that. Don't bring up Trump. It's not about Donald Trump. I know you don't like. We know you don't like Donald Trump. We know. We get it.
No, I'm gonna explain all what it means about Democrats. I'll note it's almost all about what the Democrats were perceived as opposed to what the alternative was. Okay, so it's really going to focus on Democrats, which will be perfect for you. It was mostly about, from what I can tell, a lack of turnout among people who would have voted for Democrats. So if you look in like really Democratic areas, they didn't turn out to offset the conservative areas as they had in the Biden election. The reason for that is whenever Trump was president and people were upset about the pandemic, the response, the backlash to that was, we're going to put in the other guy. And then, as we've seen nationwide across, this is the biggest variable. There's a bunch of smaller variables as well. But the biggest variable is that across Western countries, we've seen this backlash to incumbents for the pandemic-related conditions, namely prices going up. Now, the United States, I have to throw this in, I'm sorry, has handled inflation much more effectively than our wealthy country counterparts. We brought down inflation much faster than, again, our counterparts across the world. I think Biden-Harris policies have been generally really solid on managing the economy. We came out of the pandemic much more effectively than any other country on the globe. And the unfortunate thing was, though, all those pandemic conditions and recovery efforts that any president would have engaged in, Trump did too, ended up setting up, and supply chain problems and the war in Ukraine, it all contributed to worldwide inflation. And that ended up being blamed on incumbents, right wing and left wing across the world.
You mentioned Ukraine.
Let's round that out. So I think this is less about people loving what Trump's offering and more about people rejecting an incumbent because they've been misled about what the cause of prices going up was.
So you mentioned Ukraine as a cause of inflation, and that's something that there's a fairly clear distinction between the right and the left about, is Ukraine overall.
But I mentioned that. So let's go there. I love that conversation. But let's just really solidify. Let's ignore Ukraine because that's not the most important part. It was recovery efforts, supply chain problems, and the economic aftermath of the pandemic that Trump would have dealt with too if he'd gotten a second term. That's the main causes of inflation.
He loves gay Ukraine.
And corporate price gouging because people were expecting inflation, so they did it.
That's ridiculous. So now, what did you say?
I just said he loves gay Ukraine, just a little.
It's ridiculous they did it, or ridiculous that I said they did it?
Yeah, it's ridiculous that you say that it was corporate price gouging. Yeah. So,
I mean, that's just what happened. They increased prices more than inflation necessitated.
I don't think that that's the case. But anyways, the point being, like, I wanted to bring up Ukraine. There's a distinct, left and right divide when it comes to Ukraine, right?
Wait,
and so
I feel like your audience is gonna it'll be a disservice to them. Can y'all explain, if Biden was so bad for inflation, why we brought it down so much faster than all of our?
I didn't say that Biden was so bad for inflation.
Okay.
I think
so. You agree the American public misdiagnosed why inflation happened?
No, I don't. Don't put words in my mouth. The government is bad about inflation. The government prints.
America did really good handling compared to everyone else.
The federal government prints dollars, and both the Biden administration and the Trump administration spent plenty of money. Those things are
My point is that
unquestionable.
they nailed the recovery. They did amazing. Biden-Harris did amazing getting us out of the pandemic.
No, they
economic
didn't.
crisis.
So
they did
so-
amazing.
no, they
handling
didn't.
They did
inflation.
amazing getting us out of Afghanistan.
No,
too.
they didn't. No, they didn't do. They didn't do amazing.
And y'all have misled people about why grocery prices are high. That's my point.
That's
and if grocery prices
all
weren't high,
ridiculous.
we
That's
would have not
all
voted for
ridiculous.
Trump. That's why
all
it's happened.
absurd.
You asked
all ridiculous.
You asked why
I didn't
Trump
ask
won.
you. I didn't ask.
It got a little boring. I need to spice it up.
This is. I didn't ask
I left
anything
for
like
a
this.
second.
No,
This is
you
all
asked why Trump won. I'm telling you it's because of mostly people were pissed about prices. And I'm saying they were wrong about the cause of it. They were right that it was happening, and they should have voted
I think
for
they.
Trump.
What's the cause of it?
So listen. I
go
asked
through
for
it
your
again.
opinion,
Oh, yeah,
and
okay,
and
I
you
left
gave it. I think that actually, instead of moving on to Ukraine, Isabella, you've been fairly quiet. What is
my
your
gosh.
sense as to why there has been a shift to the right?
I think that there's left-wing infighting where there's the really progressives that kind of tell them that they can't speak to these certain people, like something that you do. You speak to people like us, right? That's okay. But that's coupled with, I think, wokeness is a big driver. You even see people, like even just celebrities that are generally leftist. Like even I just saw Perez Hilton, who's obviously like very gay, very leftist, liberal kind of guy. He's sick of the wokeness. Bill Maher talks about the wokeness. People on the left, it's getting more popular. I think people see things for their eyes, or for instance, with kids, like people that have kids in schools, they don't want their daughter to have to go into a locker room or a bathroom with a man dressing as a woman, right? These things that people try to gaslight us and say, oh, you're just fear mongering. Oh, you're transphobic. It's like, no, I just want to be able to go to a bathroom without a guy in there. So I think wokeness is
That's
a
exactly
y'all have been
why
really
I made the
successful
distinction earlier between
blowing things out of
progressives
proportion.
and Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Democrats would tend to agree with you, at least on this particular issue. Democrats would generally tend to agree with you. I think there's
on the
some
bathroom
kind
one,
of
but
numbers like 75% of America thinks that the
Right.
the bathrooms should be, at least for women, like there shouldn't be trans women in women's bathrooms.
Right.
Men can deal with trans men in men's bathrooms. It's not an issue.
And in sports too, women's sports, obviously, people are
Yeah.
seeing their daughters have to compete
And so,
with men.
but these are progressive issues, as
Right.
opposed to what I think would be Democrat
Yes.
basic.
Let's be
issues.
fair. Nobody is like, if a Blair White or
Thank you.
a Brianna Wu is like walking into a bathroom, right? I would never call the police or anything like that. And it was never a thing. I worked in a bar and we would have
Who made
women
it a thing?
wait, hold on. It was never a thing. There were women coming into bathrooms.
wrong
Fine.
word to
It
use.
is the ones that look like that Jeffrey creepy Marsh dude, okay? The ones that aren't fully committed to their transition, right? The Jeffrey Marsh, the thing that happened in the Loudoun County, right? It is those instances, right? And the fact that it was like it's becoming like a social contagion, right? To where they're putting it in schools and they're putting books in schools. It's also what's responsible for this rise in Christianity. You have like 1 in 5 kids now that are saying that they believe in God and they're turning to Christian things. You have like Gwen Stefani coming out and doing a thing with Halo, right? Recently.
Russell
Yeah, I saw that.
Brand.
I think that
It's-
part of that is because of the fact that it's a rejection of what people feel like is obvious reality, right? So the idea that a man can become a woman can become a man.
But they can't define the word woman.
True.
Right.
I personally, my take is, look, society can deal with trans people like fairly easily.
I never cared.
It's not an actual problem, and the demand by the far left, again, the progressives, not people that are more of a Democrat kind of persuasion. I think that they demand that you think of them as women. The progressives, the really extreme, ideologically possessed people will, and this is a minority. This is a minority. Hold on.
say something
The mi- it's a
on everything
it's a
when y'all go that long.
well, there's
yeah,
three of us. I understand you're in a rough spot.
Yeah, you
There
are.
three,
I'll let him
there
go
are
and then
three of
I'll
us.
wait.
But the point that I'm making is when you're dealing with people that are on the far left, not the average Democrat, saying things like, no, there's no difference between a biological woman and a trans woman. They're both biologically women.
I don't know
Those,
who said, yeah.
The Missouri congressperson said that.
I think most people understand biological sex versus your gender identity, but
That I agree with you. Most people. That's why I specified the people that are extremely progressive and stuff.
Then why
like
is the
that. But
tagline "Trans women are women"?
Right.
because they want because they're because the far left is who is actually
No. Well, that
making
one's
They're
the
the loudest.
rhetoric.
They're the
Trans women
loudest.
are trans women. Like that's fine. You're a trans woman or trans woman.
But then if,
You're not
yeah.
a woman.
right.
If they're existing in society in every meaningful way other than if you knew way too intimately their biological details,
It doesn't matter.
We're all going to treat them like women.
Stop
and we'll call
telling
them
me
women.
that I have to
But
lie.
then
Stop
why do I
telling
have
me
to
what I
go
can
in when
and
I'm
cannot
getting
I
a
am gonna-
lactation
yeah.
consultant to like breastfeed my kid and they call it chest feeding?
And also
I'm
the
a
people
clearly a
my gosh.
biological woman.
I'm gonna go
That's
through some of
annoying.
this. So one of the things that happens, I think the best friend of MAGA is like the super uber, I don't know what we would call them, like the extreme end of the left, okay? Because they provide these nice semi-attached to reality, but kind of straw men people that y'all can engage with. And what I mean is, it's not that these things aren't a thing. Like I talked about the bathroom thing. I think Nancy Mace is being psychotic with her obsession over one trans member of Congress where she goes to the restroom. She wasn't going to go to that restroom anyways. But I know these things exist, and I'm happy to talk about them as sort of cultural issues and social media discussions, but I don't think they exist in the way they impact people's lives, like the policy issues I'm focused on most of the time. And the policy issues that most prominent Democrats are focused on, like politicians. Wait, but what Republicans often do is like, if the Republican line, Trump wants to come in and give big tax cuts, his last one's disproportionately benefited wealthy folks, and then he wants to do these tariffs that will spike prices. And if he actually was really clear and transparent about what he wants to do, then I don't think people would vote for Republicans as much because their economic agenda is trash. They have a worse economic record over the last century. But instead, it has to be, don't look at that. Look at all of these other niche cultural issues, like a trans person you're probably never going to notice yourself interacting with.
All right, but it's my turn.
And then so that's a big part of this. I wish y'all would engage with what Kamala Harris was actually running on. You can go look at all of her speeches. It wasn't about trans bathrooms.
She literally said multiple times that she would provide money for trans prisoners to get it changed.
Okay.
So that is something that
there it is again. You're doing it again. You found a clip that wasn't from her presidential campaign. That was. It might have been from like her one way.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. She said it.
That was a Trump administration era policy that he was abiding by as well. But my point is, just listen for a second.
It's my turn.
That's what y'all do instead of engaging with her actual policy proposals, which were mostly economic ones to bring down prices, enhance child tax credit, small business related tax breaks. That's what she was running on a pro-freedom platform, and that's what I resonated with. And what y'all will do is only engage with like the online wokesters instead of engaging with the fact that Democrats really do have a better economic agenda than Republicans, which I'll argue until I'm blue in the face.
Time out. Okay, so it's my turn, right? I'm
Does
just
that
going to
make
address
sense
a
at all
couple
to you?
things.
Does the argument like...
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
I strongly believe that you'll argue every Democrat point until.
Okay, wait, I won't. I will not. So I just want to let you know.
I'll criticize it. I already have.
You say we don't push back. I actually made a post that the bathroom thing with Nancy Mace was absolutely irrelevant because every member has their own bathroom. Everybody, and I wrote it. I wrote a post saying, this bathroom stuff with Nancy Mace is like retarded. Honestly,
it's a political statement.
Because every member has their own private bathroom in their own office. There's no, and they don't. I've been on the Hill for many years. They did finally put a women's bathroom off like the floor of Congress, right? So I push back on that. That's one thing. Second thing is like the tariffs. They keep saying this tariffs, but like Brazil has normally the highest tariffs in all of the countries, and they have the second richest per capita GDP. Facts, right? So like. You can argue the tariffs all you want because, all these, whatever. Go look it up.
I don't think you hear my argument, though.
No, I'm just saying, you brought up tariffs. I just want to, throw that out there. Okay, so,
it doesn't... Let's talk about tariffs as a whole thing because there's a whole thing there.
Well, tariffs is a bargaining chip. You guys are looking at it like it's, policy or whatever. We are tariffed to death. Like, you do not see, if you go to England, if you go to Germany, you don't see their taxi cabs are Mercedes. Right?
You are aware that there are tariffs that exist currently, right?
We are burdened with tariffs, and we're trying to level the playing field and bring manufacturing jobs back here.
All I'm saying, this is just if Trump follows through on the 25%, and then 10% extra on China, on our three biggest trading partners. I'm not.
How do you walk into a negotiating table?
Hold up, let me say.
If
people voted for him because they wanted prices to go down, you can make the argument that it's a good trade-off to have prices go way up, but it's bring more manufacturing jobs, whatever. And sometimes that's a trade-off that we do. He should do it strategically across the board, tariffs on all imports. It's a crazy proposal, but I'm just saying, people, you're gonna have people who are gonna be mad at Trump because all they care about is the grocery prices.
Let me explain. What he's doing it's a negotiation. He has to set how he is seen to the outside world. The reason that Trump didn't get had no new wars and all that stuff is because he's a lunatic. Because they were so afraid that he would push the button. They didn't know what he would do. He was unpredictable. They were afraid. They were more willing to negotiate with him. It's kind of like this. If you're doing a court case settlement, right? They have like a T sheet, right? Or if you're buying a house, right? The seller lists the price higher than what they actually really want to get it for. And then the buyer comes in and they go low. So now he has to have this policy, this objective that seems like it's crazy and it's really going to hurt them and it's really going to impact and that's why Mexico is already starting to negotiate and do stuff with us because they don't want those taxes and they think he's insane enough to put them in. It is a complete tool. It's a rhetoric tool. It is I am presenting power and insanity on the world stage and they're afraid of him. And that's why
that can be your argument. I'm telling you, the people who voted for him on prices are going to be mad if he follows through on this and spikes prices. That's all I'm saying.
Well, listen. There are,
and don't dispute that that's what 25% on all imports.
I think that it's important to point out the reason that prices are such an issue is because the inflation has already come and kind of gotten under control, but we had such outrageous inflation, and inflation is a leader and wages are a lagger. So wages have yet to rise to meet the inflation. That's what happens.
We've surpassed it now.
So just so you know,
the people's purchasing power now is where it was pre-pandemic. It's gone back up.
So I mean, well, I'm not so sure that's the case.
Brazil has an inflation rate
because of the incredible Biden era wage growth. Real wage growth.
I don't know that that's actually true. But the point being, people are responding to what they had felt for the past 4 years, not just what has happened in the past 6 months or
all right. So let me just say something. We'll go back to Brazil for a second. So Brazil's inflation rate is higher than their set goal of 3%, but it's at 4.77, right? They have no income tax and they have the most tariffs out of any country and they have the highest GDP, right? So their prices aren't going up. They can set these trade agreements, right? They can have their tariffs a certain way. Tariffs are negotiating tools to get what you want. And I think that people are only looking at it from a non-strategic method of engaging with economic policies with other countries. And we have notoriously been, because we're the biggest or the richest or the whatever country, we have been like everybody's we're the
charity for everyone.
Yeah,
everyone come here.
I want to get Isabella. I want to get you in on
$1 billion to Africa for disaster relief.
I want to get you in on this. What's your take on the economic policies that
Look at her face already.
I'm going to be honest. I don't.
She doesn't care.
Yeah, I don't really care about this stuff. I did have a point about the trans stuff I wanted to bring up quickly. Okay. I will admit they know more about this than me. It's just not what I'm into. I should read up on it though. But just back on the trans stuff because I couldn't get in there. I want something that the right is something that I think a lot of the people that went to the right and the right is definitely sick of is the LGBTQ whatever being shoved down our throats. And Lisa showed me this on the car ride here. If you look up, not only do we have a Gay Pride Month, but it's Gay Pride year all the time because I have this as a link in the doc. There's so many gay holidays, literally multiple every single month. There's even more singular gay holidays in Gay Pride Month. So why do they have to shove it down our throats? It's annoying. I know that you're not doing it, but I think that's a big shift to the right.
It's month, sometimes multiple times a month. It's like nothing. For people that say they're so oppressed, there's nothing more celebrated right now in our culture than gay stuff. And here's the problem that I have with that. Wait.
Yeah,
wait, hold on.
I agree. Maybe
this is excessive. Here's what's excessive.
But I understand the urge to celebrate oneself when for centuries you've been dehumanized.
But you're not anymore. So here's the thing. I go into a Target with my daughter.
Nobody's been alive for centuries, my man.
I go in with my 5-year-old and my 9-year-old, right? They can read, right? And there's rainbow flags everywhere. And it's like, I forget what it said in this one Target, but it was like be gay, right? And be something else.
And it's like a toddler's t-shirt.
Right? And it's like, no, it was like,
there's no way it says be gay.
I'll find stuff.
It was really
crazy.
No I tweeted
be gay.
It really was. It was
be
like
gay, do crime is
it was like something. It was something that
says a lot.
I can't remember the exact phrase, but I did tweet about it. So it was like, this was a while ago. It was like 2 years ago. It was so egregious, right? And my kids are like, what does that mean, right? And so my next door neighbor who flies the gay pride flag, we live literally across from a schoolyard where there is kids, elementary school age, playing out in the thing all the time, right? And so they're asking these questions, right? I don't want my kids sexualized. I don't want them talking about sex. I don't want them knowing about sex. My kids, their 3rd grade class didn't even know what curse words were. That's the kind of environment that I keep them in, right? I don't want to have to, I want to be able to choose when I want to have the conversations about sex and sexuality with my kids, right? Like, if I want to say two people can love each other, if I want to say two men can love each other, and that should be fine if they love each other. If I want to say that, I want to choose when I'm allowed to say that without having it plastered everywhere. I mean, all the time, plastered everywhere, as if it's invoking conversations. That's the problem.
So let's get Luke. Let's get your take on the. Do you believe that it is excessive the way that the government is focusing on things like the LGBTQ
Government?
because I mean, making all of these
Right.
days, I believe
These
that
are
these
like
are all
official national
sanctioned by
holidays?
Yeah, these
by
are
the. I mean, they're not federal holidays,
Some of
but
them
they
are.
are.
Harvey Milk Day, federal.
Yeah, like there. I mean, there. It's all the time.
No, I think y'all found like some LGBTQ website. I don't think all of these are like.
No, if you go to
acknowledged by
national
the
holidays, because I
government.
used to have to check them for congressional stuff. Like we have to
But
say
my
like
point
happy
is,
whatever day. And
again,
they're
it's
on the
like-
national
You think
list.
it's shoved
Really?
down our throats or not?
I'm like, let's address food insecurity in the country. Let's address poverty. And it's like, oh, there's too many gay holidays.
Well, I mean, there are different.
Come on. But my point is,
so you're
I
saying you don't want to
understand-
talk about this topic because I
Even
mean,
if-
we can move on to something else if you'd like.
No, I'll talk about it. I'm trying to demonstrate the point that I'm saying, which is that the Republican politicians that have bad like economic prescriptions, they benefit from us fixating over these cultural things that.
They force us to fix
All right,
it.
time out.
Let's
Let's
be
be
honest.
honest.
I'm good, but I'm addressing it. But I don't know. I don't know if there's too many up there.
I think that
I'm sure we could debate about that, but I do think it's totally understandable that there's been. You were talking so much about backlash, how y'all have reacted. If you know that, like a lot of people growing up too, I was trying to explain this to Isabella with her usage of certain terms, harmful terms,
Funny ones.
slurs. You wouldn't empathize with someone who like their whole life felt demonized, dehumanized. So then moments like a Pride Month or something is just their chance to be like, "Woo, I'm proud of who I am." And if y'all don't think it's moral or something to be gay, that's your
No, but
journey.
it's not
Hold on. I want to put a pin in that.
But my ideology says that even with different moral frameworks, we can generally coexist as long as we don't dehumanize. Which y'all not y'all, but like the right wing for a very long time was doing that.
So you
And
mentioned you know people. You said people all their lives. There's no one in Gen Z that remembers a time where
It's just not true. I promise.
there's no one in Gen Z. You don't even let me finish. But there's no one in Gen Z that really remembers a time where gay marriage wasn't the law of the land. Right?
Right. Yeah, because they're too young.
How old is Gen Z? Like, what's the oldest Gen Zer?
I'm Gen Z.
26, 27.
26, 27. So when was the
2013, was it? Obergefell? Is
I'm
that
not
when it
sure.
was?
I thought it was like 2012. So it's been a decade. So I mean, maybe there's a handful of people that were that are Gen Z that remember a time before being before
It was
when gay-
2015. I just looked it up. Obergefell v.
I mean,
Hart.
it was 10 years ago. Hold on. 10 years ago was when Obergefell was passed or the Supreme Court made that decision. So to say that Gen Z is in a situation where they remember a time where they were persecuted for being gay, I think that that's not right. Maybe millennials, definitely Gen Xers could say that, but I don't think that Gen Z could say that.
Gen
Here's
Z
the
wants
difference.
attention. They want all this like oppression points. And by the way, even before it was nationally legalized, it was also becoming legal in certain states with the
Okay,
Supreme Court. It
yeah,
started
y'all-
in
But before that,
Massachusetts.
though, there's one even more thing that's like even more whatever. You said something, and I want to give you credit for that. You think that we can have a framework where we identify, like we each have our moral beliefs, and then it's but we're able to coexist, right? And I think that's true, right? I do think that should be allowed. However, we have like NFL sports teams making their people wear rainbow pride flags, but they're not making them wear crosses.
Right.
They're not having a Catholic night where everybody's got to wear a cross on their arm. Okay.
Black national
hold on, I'm
anthem.
not done. Or we're not having big like Catholic parades where there's naked people in the street, right? We're not having Catholic ideology or whatever taught to kids in school. We're not saying what.
You're pointing out these are mostly what you're talking about are social things, but they are sanctioned by the government. So even though the government isn't making the NFL do these things, and the government's not saying
They're
that you
teaching
must-
about non-binary
they're-
stuff in school, but they're not teaching about Catholicism in school.
That's right. That's the point. They're
that's
not.
the
That's
difference.
the point that I'm making is they are
It's just not-
mostly
it's just
social
not
things.
True. Y'all
is
wait.
This is the gaslighting I'm talking
Wait.
about.
Wait. What you're talking about is you'll have examples. Like in the curriculum, it's not hey, in second grade, we're telling you what it means to be trans. At least I haven't seen that in curricula.
There is.
But what is true is that sometimes teachers, maybe sometimes in ways that are inappropriate, induce their own ideology into teaching, as has been happening forever. My teacher did talk about their Christian views a lot in a public school in an environment where normally that's not supposed to be a thing. I did have them talk about how like weird stuff about the Civil War that was kind of like kind of weird and right wing, and that is a thing, and you could take issue with it on the local level with your teachers and all that. But again, I'm not trying to gaslight, but I'm just saying the pride message, while there's instances like I agree, if you're in a place where it's just like public and you're naked, stop. But
largely the gays.
With the pride message, the best of the pride message, and what has helped us make so much progress with the next generation and with current generation, and like as the generation have gone on, we've made progress on this, is saying what I'm saying, which is that we can be proud of who we are as individuals, and some people can find that behavior
But 10
immoral.
years ago, we were there.
But the pride flag isn't saying like you have to be gay or you have to be trans. It's saying
No, but it's forcing us to have those
We weren't there 10 years ago. I can tell you that for sure. We weren't.
I'm telling you, when I was growing up, I'm way older
y'all
than
understand.
40, right?
You're complaining so much because people treat you bad because you have a MAGA hat on. You should experience what a lot of people experience.
We loved gay people. I loved gay people. People on the right, my mom, everybody loved gay people.
Great, that's an awesome
Now
experience for you. That's not the universal experience for everybody.
But I'm saying there was a cultural shift before you were born. Okay.
How do you think we made that
you could be
cultural
my kid.
shift? Yes, sometimes the pendulum swings a little bit
But that's
far in this direction.
That's my point. Is now it's moving a little too far. Right now it feels ubiquitous, and that's why there's backlash. I didn't care before if gay people got married. Now I don't want them married. Like that's
just
literally
like
how
a
I went.
really reactionary way to view.
Well, because it's like they take like it's like give an inch, take a mile. Right?
It's never enough. That's the thing. What more does
They need a social cause to like be the victim of.
Like what?
But it is. They need a social cause to be a victim of, to constantly be in this fighting mentality. It's kind of like the Marxist social trend.
It is fair to say that as long as you have lobbying groups and special interest groups, that they're going to need to be in a position of victimhood, so that way they can continue to.
And that's the problem. That's why we need.
Now, whether or not you think that it's extent
across the political spectrum, there's like Trump Bibles being put in.
Yeah, I think
every time anyone says anything, you're like, well, Trump.
No,
like you've literally replied with Trump's name almost everything I say, and I wasn't making.
I'm trying to demonstrate it's whenever I'm demonstrating a principle. If you vote on the basis of some of these issues without understanding how they're ubiquitous, then you're voting in a misinformed way. So I'm trying to illustrate.
Well, everyone has their own interest in the things that they're going to be concerned with. So the people that would be an LGBT lobby, they're going to be voting against things that are positive for Christians or whatever. Because
that's not true. That's my point, though. Is that
so? Then Christians vote against gay people, but gay people don't vote against.
No, not all Christians vote against gay people.
No ones.
What you're alluding to, maybe it's not. I'm not saying that everyone, but what you're alluding to is people on the right will vote against the things that are good for gay people or whatever, but people that are on the left won't vote against.
No,
things
I think sometimes the Democratic Party also is successful in blowing these issues or convincing people to be distracted by certain issues that then they don't actually have to do as much structural stuff on. Like the economic things I think we should fix would be contradictory to that of a lot of special interests, powerful, big pharma, big oil, etc. And so it's easier to run on issues that don't threaten those special interests, which the right and the left do, but at least the Democratic Party has some record of making positive economic progress, whereas the Republican Party is just using the fuel of these cultural issues.
So what I want to say about that is, you said like...
and pride is not exclusionary of Christianity. It is vice versa if you believe.
No, they mock it. They dress up as nuns and mock it.
Would you consider
I don't like mocking religions, but I'm saying that one is saying you get to be who you are if that's a super religious, straight, whatever. You can be proud of that.
I strongly disagree with that.
They don't
let us celebrate.
You think the pride is saying everyone should be gay? How does that even work?
But
they're saying you don't want to have sex with like a trans woman, so a man, then that's transphobic.
They do say that.
They say that.
I don't believe that anyone of note, any Democratic politician has ever said
It's always about the politicians.
Because I'm not going to get bogged down. Do you understand the framework? Engagement sells on social media. So we're always going to hear these really loud idiots And I'm not going to let my entire political analysis be skewed by that. So instead, I'm going to focus on relevant people, which are people in positions of power. But y'all's whole world is shaped by, an annoying TikToker with blue hair.
I just earlier mentioned that there's
Trump is
I just earlier mentioned that there's a congressperson from, I believe it's from Montana, that's a trans person that was saying, what was the remark they made? That trans women are biological women. So
show me that.
And while we're getting that up, I did want to point out, you did mention how you had a Christian teacher. What other what is the percentage of teachers that pushed a left-wing ideology onto you? Because I had that way more. I had like 2 conservative teachers in my entire life of like high school through college, and everyone else was super left-wing. So this is the point that conservatives are making. And you say that we just feel like we're being victimized. No, we know that they want us to know we're in the minority, because at every single major institution, we have the Hollywood elites, the college, like the education system, the government. Even though I guess Trump will be in the government now, we all still know that largely there's a lot of politicians that condemn just being conservatives, you're transphobic, all these certain things. I mean, literally every single major institution in America skews left. So we're sick of being told that, no, we're just feeling like victimized. No, that's the truth. Tell me, can you answer the question? How many teachers, like, be honest, were left wing that you could tell?
I mean, you could.
My school district? Oh, it was probably
no, it's just
more.
like that. It
doesn't matter.
Teachers.
Like overall,
so you might have an issue.
Like statistically, teachers wildly skew Democrat.
Absolutely.
You might have an issue with the actual with the outlet, but the transgender women are every bit as biologically female as cis women. Biological trans state lawmaker claims. That's Zoe Zephyr, Montana state rep.
Direct quote.
So the trans women are women, full stop thing. I don't have a problem with. Obviously, biologically female is an incorrect statement.
Okay, so this is exactly what I'm talking about. Okay. There are Congress people. There was a Congress person,
a state rep, but yeah,
they're elected officials.
There is a trans person that was just elected to to the Congress in Delaware as a representative from Delaware. Shares these beliefs, but
I'd love to.
I mean,
see the context of that. The
Delaware.
That is weird. Every bit is biologically.
What context do you need?
This is
no,
not
because the reason there's a quote within a quote. I think probably this is total guess. She might just be wrong, which I will totally admit. I feel like there's a chance someone said, "Are they biologically female?" And she said, "They're every bit a woman as a cis woman."
There's no context needed. It's very
there is
clear.
Because when we make the distinction between like your gender identity, right, how you're identifying,
gender identity
versus
or
your biology,
she said biology.
Okay, but like
within the quote is what I'm wondering about, if that was her words, but maybe. But it looks like that's what she said, and then she would be wrong.
I think the reason they put the quotes in there is because it's actually like factually wrong what she said.
I don't know.
Oh, maybe that's
why. They're not actually biologically female. So she's saying they're biologically female. So the quotes are to say, oh, no, she's implying this, but it's actually wrong. So
then State Rep Zoe Zephyr would have made an incorrect statement there.
So like, you know how you were saying, though, that the left focuses on economic issues and things like that?
No, not enough, but.
Okay, but when I was watching, like, I think that both sides do this, and it's really because the general American public is stupid. And so, like, this is how they do it. But if you were to look at, like, the marketing materials of both sides, clearly they were, like, fanning the flames. We were looking at, a clip that you said of Kamala Harris saying the thing about the transgender prisoners and all that, right? And we were focusing on those type of issues. But at least she said it. We had her literally running ads that were complete factual lies.
Yeah.
We had Kamala Harris saying that Trump doesn't support IVF, but he actually said a plan for IVF. Every
time they said the very fine people statement, was an absolute
and it was debunked like a million times, but everyone said it over and over. Obama said it on the platform.
Context a little bit.
In this election misinformation stuff will never be censored.
But he specifically said, "I'm not talking about the white nationalists and the Nazis." He specifically said that.
Okay,
again,
but
on that, I agree. It's been taken out of context, but it's also not a lie, because he was saying the people who wanted the statue to stay, that was comprised of a lot of white nationalists. That's what a lot of that was.
That's a real
And then Trump
stretch.
made the distinction.
That's a real stretch when he specifically said.
Two sides? What were the two sides?
People that didn't want their history torn down.
Yeah, there were people there that were.
That is, but okay.
The statue?
Yeah, there's people like me.
Yeah, the statue thing is like.
I love Robert E. Lee. I love him. I love that man. Right? And like,
why?
I've learned so much about him and what an inspiring.
Why can't you learn
general.
history without celebrating bad parts of it?
Wait. He wasn't a bad person in general. Actually, he wasn't even like a fan of slavery. He loved. See, we don't have a devotion to our land like they did back then. Land was sustenance for them. Land was survival for them back then. And so, what his problem was is, like, he was actually a West Point guy, right? Like, he was a West Point guy, and he was asked to fight for the Union, and he said, "I can't fight brother against brother, and so I'm going to go defend Virginia." He wasn't like General Lee wasn't like about the slavery thing. As a matter of fact, I think he had less than
something like 1.5% of American Southerners owned slaves. Or something
it was like something ridiculous. That's not the point. I don't even want to get into that conversation. But that doesn't mean that he was like a bad person. He was a brilliant general, and he was actually a very cool, good human being. And just because he feels some loyalty to land, and he doesn't want to fight against
Whenever
his own
someone,
brother or
no matter
family.
how good of a person you think they were, is the leader, leads the military uprising and rebellion against the United States government over the issue
Who fired
of
first?
slavery.
Who drawled up?
That is not.
Well,
someone
I
that
don't think that it's a
that I
great.
want to put
listen,
statues
listen.
up
There's
to.
10 minutes left or so, and
Yeah,
I
I
don't
do
think
wanna
that
get
it's a
to
great
something else,
idea to try to debate the
Civil War. We're not
the
doing
Civil War. But what I would like to do on the
You'd love my middle school teacher.
at the very last thing that I want to talk about is immigration, right? The problems at the border. I am interested in your takes, considering the fact that for 3 of the 4 years that President Biden was was in office, there was no problem at the border. There's no problem at the border, and it was all nothing's wrong. President Biden himself said that he wanted to see a surge at the border when he was running. The surge came. There were massive negative consequences for the population, and now we have a significant increase in crime, and you have cities that are dealing with the economic burdens.
In trafficking, human trafficking
That's happened because of it. And then for the past year, the Biden administration has admitted, or the last year of the administration, they admitted that there was problems. I'd like to hear your take on that. I'm interested in what your opinion is.
Yeah. So I don't want to trigger you and bring up Trump again, but let's start with my criticism of Democrats, but then let me talk about why Republicans aren't any better on this issue. But first,
Well, no, but that's not where I'm not asking you why are Republicans better. I'm asking you to talk about your Democrats.
it is
If you can talk about the
crucial
Democrats.
because they are linked, because Biden's inaction was in part prompted by the fact that Republicans refused to do anything congressionally, which Biden thought a systemic approach
not
was
true.
better.
It's not true.
I'll
What
show
do
you
you
exactly.
think,
Hold on. Let me just
Yeah,
say
go-
this.
hold
In
on.
2019,
If
real
you're
quick.
going to ask me a question like, give me your take on
fine.
immigration.
Yeah, I would like your
Hold on.
take, Lisa.
You go,
All right,
go ahead,
let him
go.
go.
So, Biden, Harris, at the beginning, made a lot of bad calls. They waited too long to address it comprehensively. Now, they did introduce an immigration reform thing right when they came in. Republicans said, we don't want to engage at all. That could have been a chance to do something. They did propose the border security bill. Trump encouraged Republicans to shoot down. So there's these cases of why Republicans shouldn't.
know
get
why the
political-
Republicans
Why
didn't?
I know why y'all think it is, but that's wrong. It's not because a bunch of people were let into the country.
That's not why.
Okay, what do you think?
Well, because it would have allowed for people to
what I
the
just
people
said.
that were.
Sorry, go. Sorry. Sorry, I'm sorry. I just debate this a lot. Sorry, go.
So it would have allowed for 5,000 up to 5,000 people to be let in, and it would have allowed been a naturalization bill. It would have allowed the people that were here to stay.
So, no, the 5,000 point I've dealt with so much because it's not that. It was that right now encounters with the people that you're arresting, if there are 5,000 encounters per day, that doesn't do anything in terms of enhancing presidential powers. What this bill proposed was not that you're letting them go, but instead that the 5,000 triggers new power that Trump never had, that Obama never had, that Biden never had, that allows you to restrict the asylum process. Because right now under U.S. law, Trump and Biden, same, you have to hear asylum claims very expansively. This would restrict that once the encounters get out of control, which is very different than just letting a
It
bunch
was
of people in.
5,000 people, right up until.
You hear what I said?
every
But they're
day.
still getting
Yes.
arrested.
Yes.
Okay.
They're still getting
So
arrested.
then-
They weren't being held; they were being allowed
Then
into the country.
and as a thing,
Which
I
is
put,
actually
I
the
put it in
biggest
the doc,
problem, right?
Yeah, I put it in the doc. Just
I'll pull it up.
But let's do the comparison later because I know that'll immediately prompt more responses than just. I do think Biden Harris that hurt them a lot, that issue, but politically it didn't spike crime. Crime has been plummeting under them. But I do think as an issue, they were afraid of the really which. a lot of beautiful people doing this work. The immigrant advocates, they were afraid that they would look too much like Trump's inhumane policies, which he went too far in the inhumane direction.
Like kids in cages, that was actually fake photos from under Obama.
The cages weren't
that
used for
misinformation wasn't
separating.
censored.
The cages weren't for separating children like Trump was doing. But yes, those.
Well, when you get arrested, you
under
don't.
Obama.
Parents don't get.
And yes,
when you get
I heard it
arrested,
before. That's
they
not how we
don't,
did
they don't
before.
stay
I think
with
that's
their
inhumane.
Right.
kid. Do you
Given
think it's
type
inhumane
of-
to be arrested and then have to have
Arrest the
your kids
kid?
not?
People
kids
cross
should
the
be
border
held
illegally.
in jail with their parents.
But given the type of crime that crossing the border illegally is, and it not being a felony, you can fact check me on that.
But okay, but you're having people, if you keep
I
them
don't
together.
think separating the children a very traumatic thing if maybe they have a valid asylum claim and all of a sudden you're doing this crazy thing and then they get all mixed up and it's this whole debacle.
But do you see why?
Wait. So my thing, I'm trying to be nice to y'all.
I know, you're
yes,
doing a great job,
They waited too long to take it seriously, but then y'all don't have a thing to say about it because once they were ready to take it seriously, Republicans went,
It's
nah.
fine. Okay, here's my turn.
Oh,
Okay,
I put in the doc, Newsweek reports Trump released, your brains are going to explode, but more migrants with criminal records than Biden did.
Okay.
Entering the U.S. is
Time
a
out.
felony.
Okay, time out.
illegal, yeah.
Time out. Thank you,
So
Cal.
I mean,
So wait, let me just go. Don't talk. Okay, so here we go.
Lisa,
What I want to say is this is like, it's humane. I think it's more humane to separate kids from their parents, like in these situations, because you're housing them with other people who cross the border who have not been vetted. So do I want kids in this tightly quartered environment with people who may be like adults that may be predators or things like that? No, you want the kids separated from them so that they're, wait, let me finish.
The first offense is a misdemeanor. Is where
Okay, hold on. You got to go. Let me go. So I think it's more humane to separate the kids to protect their well-being. Now, that said, now come here. You said, this is my biggest thing, because I did a lot of street interviews with James Klug on this. The biggest thing that they say is when we were ready to act, Congress didn't want to do it. Let me show you this, because I was here for this. In 2019, the Democrats rejected a border wall. Now, can you please scroll down there and look at the things that it offered? Okay? We were giving, okay. $800 million for urgent humanitarian assistance, $500 million for drug detection, additional border agents, immigration judges. That was huge, right? We also were giving, keep going, if you go all the way down. Oh, yeah. Allowing Central American minors to apply in their home countries, all these things. And then in exchange for, we were giving recipients from the DACA. We were going to give more DACA recipients the ability to become naturalized, and a 3-year extension of temporary protected status for people that were here. Dems rejected it. So when you want to give me the argument that, Republicans didn't want to do anything, no, we actually gave them a way more balanced bill than they ever put on the table.
But
this is an NPR article.
You're right. More balanced. You're right. Yeah.
We gave you way more balanced opportunity. So I don't want to hear that we weren't ready to play ball.
This is what I'm talking about, though. Whenever that wasn't Biden. Biden wasn't in power then. I'm talking about Biden because that's who was running for president.
No, we're talking about Democrat versus Republican.
Harris. I can't speak for every Democratic action because I can tell you this.
Well, we're talking about the Democratic Congress.
The
Democratic Congress rejected this, just like the Republican Congress rejected yours. Wait, no, you got to talk. It's my turn. So what I'm saying,
you asked me a question. I want to tell you.
I'm saying that the Democrats, you said you're changing it back to Biden. That's not what we're doing. You said the Congress didn't want to act.
The Biden administration.
No, you said Congress. You said Congress
didn't
want to act.
What did I think about the Biden administration's handling of the border?
That's
not what we're talking about.
I'm not going to defend you on this one because
I don't need you to defend. I'm just saying you did ask me about Biden administration.
You said
I want to talk about this.
You said Congress.
Let me talk about it.
I'm not going to finish my statement. You said Congress didn't act. The Congress refused to act. You didn't say Biden didn't act or Trump didn't act. You said Congress. And so I'm going back to
during the Biden administration. I said for the first 2.5 years, he slow walked. He did bad. I condemn.
And then when it was time,
and then on this, the whole border wall thing. I agree. It got so ridiculously blown out of proportion. Give him the damn border wall if he wants it.
We tried to work with you. This is what this is showing. And you rejected us. And then when we reject you, it's, we are responsible for the immigration policy? No, you wouldn't work with us for years when we offered way more fair policies.
I was told that Trump had fixed everything and handed that to Biden.
It was way better. Look at the stats.
Okay.
Way better.
Well, there was...
Because they were afraid of him.
Because he was leaving office. But, no... The 1 year y'all love was the pandemic year because migration froze because of the pandemic. But I don't even know if we want to go there because that's like
these are record numbers.
You won't speak for all Democrats, but you'll speak for all of us.
We have 2 minutes, and I wanted to get to see what we could agree on and how we could get along. But let's finish this up.
How about we both agree that obstructing solutions, because in Nancy Pelosi's case, she probably didn't want to give Trump a win. In the Republican-led Congress, they didn't want to give Biden a win, is bad, regardless of who's doing it.
All right, so we are going to wrap it up, but I do want to get final thoughts. Would you go ahead, Luke? What do you got for us?
Thank you for watching. I've enjoyed talking with all of you. Go watch on
wrap up
my
that
channel.
Quick. We can't say what we're going to agree on.
Luke
Okay,
Beasley.
fine.
We can say it in the final
We'll do it a different one.
Isabella and I have a show once a week on Sundays that comes out called The Grudge, where we do a lot of this. And she's way more fiery than
That's
you've
because
seen
I
here.
take over.
It's
Explosive.
Yeah.
Too much so. We have to edit some out. Stuff
Yeah,
out.
see, we can't have Isabella's stuff.
Let Isabella talk, Lisa.
Y'all would have a difficult time editing if she went full Isabella. So that's interesting. And
We're fun time editing.
I do
It's
think if you're sort of like liberal curious, I'm the best version of it.
Yeah, we have a show. You guys should watch it. We fight. We literally are yelling at each other the entire time. It's a lot of fun. I do want to commend Luke for coming and sitting and talking with us, because it really was 3 against 1. So he's a good sport. Most leftists won't do that. So that's really cool. And yeah, it was
I
exciting.
actually think you're reasonable, and I think that we could get to a lot more neutral ground than
sure.
people think we can.
Yeah.
I think we can agree on stuff, even though that was a whole 2 hours of fighting.
Yeah, that was crazy. That was like yelling.
That flew by.
That was me yelling.
I know, but then I felt like I had to yell.
I'm a loud person, though.
I know you are. But yeah, thanks for having me. Check out the show. I also have a YouTube channel at Isabella Moody _ and yeah.
Lisa?
I just want to say, like I said, thanks for coming out. I really appreciate it. I think we need more of these kind of discussions. And it's, as somebody who books for this show specifically, it's really difficult to get leftists to come on at all to even engage in these conversations. And this was really brutal. Usually it's not this bad. It's not 3 against 1. So thank you. And if you have any friends that want to come on, send them our way, and you can come with them. You can tag team in,
Oh, I got a good one.
Okay, good. Like, let's set it up, because I think it's interesting, and more people, our audience likes it. Like, our audience wants us to engage with you more. So thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. And I'm sad we missed an opportunity to talk about the things we do agree on, because I think that there could be lots of things. So maybe next time we'll do, hey, what can we agree on?
And I want to take a second to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. See, I'm the one that's
why you're the host.
Holiday spirit here.
Happy
Because
Hanukkah.
I'll say happy holidays as well.
No, I'm pretty sure we do Merry Christmas around here. But keep an eye out for clips, and check out the IRL show Monday through Friday in the evenings, and we'll see you guys Monday.